"Quick, replace the immortal king crystals," shouted Bai Zhantong. The attack of the devils rapidly depleted the energy of the immortal king crystals, maintaining the formation. "It's only been 2 hours since we last replaced them. It seems that they have increased their attack power." Bai Shishir's mother frowned, looking at the devils outside the formation. "If this continues, the immortal king crystals we have won't last more than a few days," said Heaven Master Yun Yang gravely. Heaven Master Yun Yang and Heaven Master Dong Ming had been promoted to deputy deans of the academy. Essentially, Long Chen had left all the work to the two of them. So, in the past 2 days, the two of them had gotten quite a few more white hairs. The main academy had sent over immortal king crystals to support the formation, but they would only last at most 3 more days at this rate. In just 1 day, almost 1,000 immortal king crystals were exhausted. That was an incredibly painful price. "Your dean is back, and he doesn't seem worried at all, so what are you all worried about?" said Bai Zhantong irritably. He was left in a bad mood from seeing Bai Shishir run up and hug Long Chen, so he intentionally said some cold words. "What kind of attitude is that? After seeing the great dean, shouldn't you hurry and bow in greeting? Instead you act arrogant? It seems that you don't place my boss, the dean, in your eyes," chided Bai Xiaola. With Long Chen's return, he instantly stood up straighter. Bai Shishir and Bai Xiaola's mothers laughed when they heard that. But Bai Zhantong's expression darkened. He angrily roared, "You little brat, you don't know who the bigger boss is." Bai Zhantong grabbed Bai Xiaola by the collar. He would show his son who the boss was today. Calm in the past few days, Bai Xiaola had been very obedient in front of Bai Zhantong, making him happy. So, he had given his son quite a few good things during this time. But now, this little fellow instantly flipped on him when Long Chen returned. It seemed that all his previous respectfulness had been faked. As his father, Bai Zhantong felt like he needed to teach his son a lesson. Just then, Bai Zhantong's wrist was caught by Long Chen's hand. He naturally couldn't let Bai Xiaola suffer for him. "Sorry, Deputy Palace Master, this place is the 7th Branch Academy. I am the biggest one here," said Long Chen with a smile. Suddenly, the bricks beneath Bai Zhantong and Long Chen's feet shattered. Clearly, the two of them were competing. As the ground was unable to endure their power, cracks spread on the ground. Just then, a hand slapped Bai Zhantong on the back of his head. Unexpectedly, it was Bai Shishir's mother. This graceful and elegant woman was now frosty with anger. The slap on the back of his head sent Bai Zhantong reeling. "Just how old are you to quibble with a child? Can the bigger boss be so immature?" Everyone, including Long Chen, was shocked and their jaws dropped. In her current state, she seemed to be a tigress, a completely different person from her normally warm self. As a result, Bai Zhantong's fury vanished. Like a defeated rooster, he lowered his head and didn't make a sound. "I wanted to give you some face, but you get more and more out of control. We're leaving." "Stop embarrassing yourself here," ordered Bai Shishir's mother. Bai Zhantong really did leave just like that with his head down. Let alone Long Chen, even Bai Xiaola was stunned. He only reacted after a moment and cried out, "Aunt, you're so amazing." As soon as she turned to look at Bai Xiaola, her anger vanished. She returned to her warm self and smiled at him. "Men, you can't indulge them too much, or they'll think that they've become a god, don't you think?" Long Chen instantly caught goosebumps all over. These words were clearly for him. "Cough, Deputy Dean Yun Yang, Deputy Dean Dong Ming, when it comes to immortal king crystals, there's no need for you to worry. As long as I am present, we won't be lacking money." When Long Chen waved his hand, countless people cried out in shock. It was because a small mountain of immortal king crystals had appeared. The clear sound of a few crystals rolling down was exceptionally pleasant in their ears. Everyone was stunned, even Bai Shishir and Bai Xiaola's mothers. Even experts on their level were shocked. After all, seeing hundreds of thousands of immortal king crystals at once was truly shocking. Heaven Master Dong Ming and Yun Yang were delighted. "Now we're saved. These immortal king crystals will be enough to last us several months," said Heaven Master Dong Ming excitedly. "What are you talking about? This is just some pocket money that is to be given to everyone as a side benefit. Every expert who came to support us will get a portion. We can't let them come for nothing, or they'll think that our 7th Branch Academy is stingy, said Long Chen, waving his hand. Pocket money? Side benefit? Everyone was stunned. Long Chen was actually going to split these immortal king crystals with everyone? Bai Shishi and Bai Xiaola's mothers were stunned. Furthermore, Bai Zhantong, who had just dejectedly left, now ran back. Little fellow, those are your words. It just so happens that my brothers are missing some pocket money. Bai Zhantong eyed those immortal king crystals. Before he was even done talking, Bai Shishi's mother grabbed his ear and dragged him away. We came due to the Academy's orders, and we have to carry out those orders. How can we ask for other rewards? Chided Bai Shishi's mother. This doesn't count as that. Just who is Long Chen? He is the dean. How can you not give face to the dean? Said Bai Zhantong righteously. Can you save yourself some face? Demanded Bai Shishi's mother. For my brothers, who cares about face? Said Bai Zhantong loftily. You. Seniors. Long Chen hastily interrupted them. The deputy palace master is correct. You have come to save us twice. These immortal king crystals are only a small token of my gratitude, so you must accept them. But right now, the defenses are more important, said Bai Shishi's mother. She was of the opinion that Long Chen had taken out these immortal king crystals due to the words that she had just said in order to win some face. I already said that this is just some pocket change. The Academy's regular expenses have been taken care of here. Long Chen directly tossed a chest to Heaven Master Dong Ming. Heaven Master Dong Ming opened it and almost cried out. After that, he hastily covered up the chest. But from Bai Shishi's mother's vantage point, she had managed to catch a glimpse of the interior. It was a huge space filled with immortal king crystals. That was more immortal king crystals than she had ever seen in her entire life. That one chest had 10 million immortal king crystals. Heaven Master Dong Ming almost fainted. Despite knowing that everyone in this place could be trusted, he still immediately covered it. Although others couldn't see what was inside the chest, just from his expression, they knew that there had to be more immortal king crystals inside compared to what Long Chen had taken out before. After seeing those immortal king crystals, Bai Shishi's mother understood that Long Chen wasn't joking around. She then released Bai Zhantong. Bai Zhantong didn't stand on courtesy and directly gathered the pocket change of immortal king crystals. Before leaving, he hesitated for a moment, seemingly pondering if he should thank Long Chen. But he then left without saying anything. Xiaola, gather all the 4 peak disciples. I'll lead you through your collective tribulation, said Long Chen, laughing heroically. Hearing this, all the disciples inside the 7th Branch Academy shouted excitedly. They had been waiting a long time for this day. Da-boom! The formation shuddered and divine light erupted. After that, those devils attacking the barrier were blown to dust. At the same time, a ripple spread. All the devils within 10,000 miles of the barrier were wiped out. Watching this scene, Bai Zhantong cursed Long Chen for being a rich moneybags inside. This one attack had cost 3,000 immortal king crystals. His heart was dripping blood seeing this. Long Chen was amazed by the formation's power. If this large area attack was condensed into a single ray, it truly did have the power to kill a world king. As for the price of 3,000 immortal king crystals, to the wealthy Long Chen, it was only like a single hair off of 9 oxen. He didn't even feel the cost. Just then, the transportation formation lit up and young disciples came flooding off. There were 9,000 of them, led by Luocha. The 7th Branch Academy had a transportation formation linked right to the Luo family. Long Chen had already sent word to them to gather their disciples. After wiping out those interfering devils, the formation connecting the academy to the Luo family could instantly activate, so the 9,000 disciples were all brought over. The reason Long Chen had spent a huge sum to construct this transportation formation was partially due to his care for the Luo family and also partially for the Luo family's honing heavenly staircase. It was truly a priceless treasure to a cultivator. The academy's disciples also needed tempering. Over 2,000 disciples of the academy and the 9,000 disciples of the Luo family were sent outside the barrier, getting a certain distance away. Over 10,000 of them were present, their hearts pounding wildly in their chests. It was their first time hearing of a group undergoing tribulation with so many people. So, they were exceptionally excited. As for Heaven Master Dong Ming and the others, they were a bit worried. If something happened, and all these elite disciples were wiped out, how would they explain themselves? Will this really work? Bai Shishi stood beside Long Chen. She seemed to have forgotten her previous embarrassment. Her heavenly tribulation wasn't something that ordinary people could endure. Furthermore, a divine lord like Long Chen was standing in their midst, so her heart clenched. This could be a major mistake. I find that you are the one with the least confidence in me, said Long Chen with a bitter smile. Bai Shishi looked around. It seemed that this really was the case. Not one disciple here seemed worried at all, as their eyes were shining brightly. That kind of blind confidence was inexplicable to her. Start, announced Long Chen. Following that, everyone's aura surged. Bai Shishi, Bai Xiaola, Qin Feng, Qiyu, Su Zixiong, Mu Qingyun, Luo Bing, and Luo Ning were all amongst them. Over 10,000 people broke through their shackles, charging into the Divine Lord realm. The heavens shook. At this moment, countless tribulation clouds surged and a terrifying pressure shook people's hearts. Heaven Master Yun Yang stared in fright at the massive tribulation clouds. The youngsters these days are crazy. Long Chen looked at the tribulation clouds and frowned as well. Bai Shishi immediately asked, "What is it? Did something happen?" "This heavenly tribulation is weaker than I expected." "That doesn't seem right," said Long Chen curiously. "How could that be? The heavenly tribulation's destructive aura is causing my soul to shake. One mistake and we might all die. How can you call it weak?" Bai Shishi looked at him in confusion. Long Chen shook his head. Suddenly he had a thought. Could it be due to the heavenly Tao mark? Standing here, he didn't sense any hostility from the heavenly tribulation. If it was before, the heavenly tribulation would immediately want to kill him as if he had killed their father. This time, the heavenly tribulation didn't even notice him. That's fine too. If it can't see me, it will give everyone else some buffer time. Then I just need to silently watch, thought Long Chen. Just then, a drizzle of lightning fell onto their bodies. The first wave of this tribulation was very gentle. Everyone found it easy. Everyone bathed in the lightning drizzle, but they knew that the real danger lay at the end. Thus, they did their best to absorb as much of this lightning as possible to quickly raise the power of their bodies to face the end of the tribulation. Just then, long lightning dragons appeared. They swam within the lightning tribulation, absorbing the lightning that didn't fall on people's bodies. Calm Lei Linger had transformed into tens of thousands of lightning dragons to absorb the leftover lightning here. She had ended up devouring too many lightning runes in the integral heaven star field. The last batch in particular was so powerful that refining them took up a great deal of energy. If relying just on herself, it would take at least 10 more days to finish refining those runes. But now, by borrowing everyone's heavenly tribulation, she could use the weak lightning here to refine that strong lightning. It could be considered killing two birds with one stone. At first, the disciples were stunned to see the violet lightning dragons swimming around them. They had never seen lightning life forms like them. Even the experts inside the academy, including the Battle God Palace's experts, were startled. Long Chen controls Thunder Force himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't make everyone take this risk, said Bai Xiaola's mother with a smile. Last time, she had personally witnessed the entirety of Long Chen's tribulation. Now, she found that the aura of those lightning dragons of his had grown even more terrifying. With the descent of the lightning tribulation, those devils attacking the academy fled. This kind of supreme yang power was precisely what they were most afraid of. After an incense stick's worth of time, the lightning rain grew stronger and bigger. The drops went from the size of a thumb to the size of a chicken egg, and their power grew explosively. It then went from the size of a chicken egg to a head. Now, the drops were exploding, possessing a certain killing power. Calm after that, they transformed into lightning swords, which grew sharper and sharper. After 2 hours, people started to be injured. Heaven Master Yun Yang started to grow uneasy. They were not even halfway through the tribulation, but people were starting to be injured. How would they face the rest of the tribulation? When another incense stick's worth of time passed, lightning beasts appeared in the sky. With their arrival, the situation became a bit chaotic. There were too many of those lightning beasts, and they came from every direction. These disciples clearly didn't have experience against lightning beasts. Lightning beasts normally only appeared when advancing to the Divine Lord realm and onward. So, most of these disciples had not encountered them in their tribulations yet. Furthermore, it was also said that an ordinary person would only have 9 lightning beasts appear in their tribulation, and they would only appear at the end. Killing those 9 lightning beasts would mean that the tribulation was over. Only primals would have 99 lightning beasts in their tribulation. But this time, although the ones undergoing tribulation were all primals, the number of lightning beasts was numbered in the millions. Furthermore, they continued to stream out of the tribulation clouds. There was an endless tide of them. Now, the situation instantly turned grave. Quite a few people looked toward Long Chen. If you fall to such weak lightning beasts, I won't save you. You won't be worth saving and can just die in humiliation. Long Chen's icy voice shook their hearts. Every person wants power. Every person wants to encounter some miraculous opportunity that can change their fate. Every person hopes to accomplish what takes others years to do in just a day. They want shortcuts that allow them to skip decades ahead of others. They want to soar to the top and look down on their old peers. I have a responsibility to tell you that there are no shortcuts in cultivation. If you want to accomplish in a day what others accomplish in decades, then you'll need to pay the pain of the decades of work compressed into a single day. If you can endure it, you will be completely transformed. If you cannot, you will be turned to dust. No one can change this law. The reason I am stronger than you isn't because my talent is higher, or because I'm smarter than you. It is because I was forced to get stronger. What I endured is not something you can imagine. This power of mine was tempered through countless brushes against death. I had no choice but to get stronger, because if I didn't get stronger, I would die. Furthermore, my death would be very miserable. You only see my strong side, but you don't see what lies behind it. If you can't even endure such a weak tribulation, then don't even think about changing your fate that the heavens decided for you. Especially the Luo family's disciples, you keep saying that you will restore the Luo family's glory, but is that something that can be accomplished just by talking? You're not talented enough to look down on others. You don't have a world king or a divine venerate as a father or mother. What will you use to compete with others? Right now, the only thing you can do is compete with your life. Create a new world for yourself and create a new future for yourself. Originally, you had the choice to not try changing your fate, but that chance is gone now. You've already chosen to undergo tribulation with me. Either you will change, or you die. Trust me. I can see every single person's talent here. This little heavenly tribulation is nothing to you. Use the threat of death to squeeze out your potential. Force yourself to erupt with greater power. Don't let your potential lie dormant within your body. Awaken it so that you can change your fate with this heavenly tribulation. You will then be reborn, and your lives will completely change. Long Chen's voice rang out above the rumbling of the heavenly tribulation. It was like a celestial god's voice ringing out above the 9 heavens. The experts feeling immense pressure were revitalized by Long Chen's speech. Their blood heated up. Perhaps they didn't believe in themselves, but they did not doubt Long Chen. This was the charisma of the strong. In the cultivation world, many people simply had blind trust in the strong. That was especially true when the words came from someone like Long Chen, who was practically a miraculous existence. Every single word he said was firmly believed by them without a doubt. If Long Chen said that they had immense potential inside them, they instantly felt like their bodies were overflowing with power, as if their potential was right in the midst of awakening. Kill! Su Zixiong, this simple-minded fellow, immediately charged out. He was the one most affected by Long Chen's words. Even his eyes were red, as his thirst for power was incredibly intense. After following Long Chen for a while, he could tell that he had transformed, and he wanted to get even stronger. He charged out, taking the initiative to go against those lightning beasts. Taking out his weapon, he slaughtered them. Qin Feng and Qi Yu shook their heads. Long Chen's words were for others to listen. What was this fellow getting so emotional for? However, following Su Zixiong's display of power, the other disciples were also affected. Rather than passively defending, they all charged out, launching a crazy counterattack against the lightning beasts. Their morale soared. When everyone set aside their fear, their battle intent soared. It was an indescribable power. Every person's soaring morale was affecting the other, constantly stimulating each other's wills. Like charcoal in the furnace, they ignited each other, growing more and more powerful. In just a few breaths' time, the lightning beasts were no longer able to suppress them. They charged out against the lightning beasts. A huge number of lightning beasts were devoured, and powerful lightning runes quickly filled the air, strengthening their bodies. As a result, their physical bodies and power continuously climbed. This was a normal phenomenon, but as these disciples crazily attacked, they didn't even realize that. They simply felt that their bodies were overflowing with power. They even thought that this was their potential being unleashed. In their delight, they went even crazier to excavate even more potential. Seeing Long Chen ignite the disciples' passions so intensely with just a speech, Bai Zhantong curled his lips. What a con man! Bai Xiaola's mother covered her smile with her hand. What, Deputy Palace Master, are you jealous? What is there for me to be jealous of? My brothers don't need to be conned, snorted Bai Zhantong disdainfully. But these people aren't Long Chen's brothers. With just a few words, Long Chen was able to make them forget the pressure, allowing them to directly face the fear in their hearts and instantly unite them. It seems that our palace master doesn't have such an ability, right? Said Bai Xiaola's mother with a giggle. Bai Zhantong was irritated, but he was also unable to find any words to retort. Seeing Bai Shishi's mother also starting to covertly giggle, he said, "You're still in the mood to laugh? Your treasured daughter is going to be conned away by this fellow due to his glib tongue. A glib tongue is better than a foolish tongue. At the very least, he knows how to say things that others like, unlike some people who can't say a single word of endearment after so many years. It seems that Shishi's vision is far better than her mother's. Looks, potential, talent, character, as expected of my daughter," said Bai Shishi's mother with praise. The two of you, Bai Zhantong's expression darkened. These two wives of his were actually standing on the side of that little fellow. What? You've accepted the betrothal gift. Don't you think it's rude for you to talk badly about your future son-in-law? Asked Bai Shishi's mother, curling her lips. What betrothal gift? Bai Zhantong was startled. He then thought of the immortal king crystals and furiously raged, "That's not dash, that's enough. Humph, after eating other people's food, you can't be rude to them. You're going to talk badly about him behind his back? You're quite something." Bai Shishi's mother glared at Bai Zhantong before turning away and focusing on the heavenly tribulation again. In the heavenly tribulation, more and more lightning beasts appeared. They also constantly grew stronger. But the disciples' morale was still high. They were fighting at full power. Saber images raged and sword chi rumbled. The battle was exceptionally intense. After 2 hours, these disciples began to have dark red mist surrounding their bodies. That was no manifestation but the result of their sweat and essence blood mixing together after being excited. Even the essence mist has appeared. These children really aren't bad. They are stimulating so much of their potential. Heaven Master Yunyang was pleasantly surprised. As a Heaven Master, he naturally knew that this mist was the result of their potential being stimulated to a certain extent. Their essence blood had silently ignited without them even being aware of it. They were starting to overdraft their power. In a heavenly tribulation, the more power you overdraft and the more potential you activated, the more you would absorb from the heavenly tribulation. It was the opposite of overdrafting your power during normal times, so it was very beneficial. However, normal people didn't dare to go so far. If they reached their limit before the heavenly tribulation ended and didn't have the power to endure it, they would die. Suddenly, the void rumbled and the lightning beasts vanished. In return, a sinister aura enveloped the land. Long Chen narrowed his eyes. As expected, they had also been infected by this karma. Not bad, Lei Linger would get to gain some profit. Just as Long Chen predicted, a sinister qi enveloped the land. At this moment, dried-up corpses in strange clothes began to come out of the tribulation clouds. Those ancient corpses made by Xiaola cry out in shock. He instantly recognized them as the corpses he had encountered on the ghost ship. Bai Zhantong and the others' hearts shook. Those corpses had the aura of the ghost Tao on them. It was the specific aura of life forms of the ghost Tao. Unexpectedly, they had been manifested by the heavenly tribulation. When those ancient corpses appeared, all the disciples undergoing tribulation felt a chill. That aura provoked the most primitive sense of fear within them. Just as they descended, the lightning dragons that were swimming in the surroundings grouped together, forming a giant yurt around everyone. There was only a single opening at the top. This way, those ancient corpses would have to come through that opening. At this time, Bai Shishi, Bai Xiaola, Qin Feng, Qi Yu, Su Zixiong, and the others charged to the top, attacking them. Bai Shishi's face was slightly pale. She had an innate fear of the ghost Tao's life forms. That was directly related to Bai Zhantong. But she knew that she had to conquer this fear. Otherwise, if the ghost Tao's life forms appeared in any battles in the future, she would be seriously affected by this fear. Seeing Bai Shishi charge up, Bai Xiaola felt that it would be too embarrassing for him to retreat. Afraid of being laughed at by others, he charged up as well. These ghost Tao life forms manifested by the heavenly Taos actually weren't that strong. Bai Shishi's sword swung through the air, and those ancient corpses were cut down in droves. Seeing Bai Shishi slaughter them so easily, Bai Xiaola's guts also grew. He attacked those lightning ancient corpses together with everyone else. If you feel that you are capable, you can try it. If you feel that you can't, then just wait at the rear and it's fine, said Long Chen. Those frightened disciples instantly grew tumultuous. Seeing that Bai Shishi had charged out, it felt like they would be admitting that they couldn't do anything if they didn't join in. It was as if they were about to take a swig of alcohol and someone said that they could avoid drinking it if they couldn't. The challenge fully provoked them. Kill! Clenching their teeth, those disciples suppressed their fear and charged forward. They were ferocious, and just relying on this provocation, they completely stopped that army of ancient corpses. The power of these ancient corpses should be around the early immortal king realm and is technically stronger than they are. They've already started overdrafting their power but are still able to endure. Long Chen is right. They really will completely transform after this tribulation, said Bai Shishi's mother. She saw that these disciples were all panting and covered in sweat but still roaring furiously and charging forward. This is Long Chen's charisma. With him present, others can forget their fear. Perhaps they have no confidence in themselves, but their confidence in Long Chen has never wavered. These disciples were unafraid of death. They had a new conviction, and that was that they would rather be beaten to death than be scared away. It was this conviction that let them enter a state of forgetting even themselves. They only knew to fight all out and forgot everything else. However, going all out like this, some disciples suddenly fainted in less than an incense stick's worth of time. They had used up everything they had. There was no longer any trace of energy in their bodies. Once they collapsed, lightning chains grabbed them and dragged them to the rear. But they were left just suspended in the air. No way! Even after they fainted, he won't let them off? Heaven Master Yun Yang noticed that even as those fainted people were bound by the lightning chains, more lightning runes continued to merge into their bodies, forcibly tempering their bodies. More and more disciples collapsed. But seeing that, the other disciples only grew more excited. For them to be able to endure while others couldn't meant that they were at least a bit stronger. However, it wasn't long before only just over 1,000 people were left fighting from the original 11,000. This proved that their potential was greater than others. Luo Changwu watched excitedly. He saw that many of the Luo family's disciples had violet marks appear in their eyes right before they collapsed. That was a sign of their bloodline awakening. It had to be known that in all these years, every generation in the Luo family would only have a few dozen talented disciples capable of activating their bloodline power. Now, so many people were starting to awaken their bloodline. Luo Changwu even had the urge to cry. Luo Zichuan had left the Luo family to him and Luo Changwen, so both of them felt a heavy pressure. However, with Long Chen's help, the Luo family was growing stronger day by day. They were growing more and more glorious, entering an unprecedented era. They all wished that Luo Zichuan could see their current state. After another incense stick's worth of time, only over 10 experts remained. Bai Shishi, Bai Xiaola, Xin Feng, Qiyu, Su Zixiong, Luo Bing, Luo Ning, Mu Qingyun, Zhong Ling, Zhong Xiu, and a few others were still capable of enduring. The rest had collapsed. At this time, the Ghost Dao's life forms had reached the mid-immortal king realm. Although Bai Shishi's sword was as sharp as lightning, she was unable to stop all of them. Thus, everyone else was under a great deal of pressure. In just a few breaths' time, Luo Bing, Luo Ning, Mu Qingyun, and the others exhausted all their remaining energy and fainted. Now it was only Bai Shishi, Bai Xiaola, Su Zixiong, Qin Feng, and Qiyu still enduring. Bai Xiaola's 3 flower pupils revolved in his eyes. But he actually looked at Su Zixiong and shouted, "Big brother Zixiong, don't fight any longer. I can see that you've reached your limit." Long Chen was speechless. It seemed that Bai Xiaola didn't want to give up before Su Zixiong. Amongst the 5 of them, Su Zixiong was the weakest. If he gave up first, it would be admitting that he was inferior to Su Zixiong. This child was actually trying to make him give up. Su Zixiong clenched his teeth. He was soaked in sweat and panting as he swung his rod. "I'm fine. I can endure." "But I can't endure much longer." Bai Xiaola was so anxious that he actually said exactly what he was thinking. After realizing it, he hastily shut his mouth. As for Bai Shishi, she was continuing to cut down those Ghost Dao lifeforms. Her fear of the Ghost Dao was growing dull bit by bit. Even now, she wasn't out of breath. Qin Feng and Qiyu were also still in top condition. Furthermore, due to their combat experience, they were well suited to group battles. Their auras were not showing any signs of weakening. Thus, it was Bai Xiaola who was the most bitter now. He had a splitting headache. That was the result of overdrafting his spiritual strength. He had used his pupil arts liberally in order to show off his power and had killed countless tribulation manifestations. Although it was very flashy and drew attention, it cost a great deal of energy. He could not hold on much longer. However, the only thing keeping him going was that he didn't want to fall before Su Zixiong. So, he clenched his teeth and endured, trying to save as much of his spiritual strength as possible to outlast Su Zixiong. After an incense stick's worth of time, Bai Xiaola finally couldn't last anymore. His eyes rolled into the back of his head and he fainted. Just after he fainted, Su Zixiong coughed up a mouthful of blood. He was injured by one of those ancient corpses and fainted as well. There was no more than the blink of an eye between the 2 of them falling. "Now it's just the 3 of you. Now we can really get started." Long Chen flicked his finger. A flash of fire soared into the sky and exploded amongst the tribulation clouds. The calm tribulation clouds instantly went crazy. It was like a wild beast had been awoken. A murderous aura filled the air. Long Chen's actions horrified countless people, but Qin Feng and Qiyu didn't even react. They were already used to it. Rumbling sounds rang out within their bodies, as their blood qi was raised to the pinnacle. The 2 of them knew that this was the true tribulation. Before this, they had just been looking after the others. Boom! The heavenly tribulation quivered, and the levels of those ancient corpses instantly soared to the late immortal king realm. "Kill!" Qin Feng and Qiyu shouted at the same time, charging into the clouds and obliterating those ancient corpses that descended from the heavens. The 2 of them blasted through the current of ancient corpses, and their divine weapons quivered as they attacked fearlessly. At this moment, they displayed bravery that moved countless people. What a powerful battle intent. They are true warriors. There were dozens of experts behind Bai Zhantong. They were the elites of the Battle God Palace and had also experienced countless battles. But seeing Qin Feng and Qiyu charge against the heavens, they were still moved. They felt great respect and admiration for the 2 of them. Heavenly tribulation was the supreme will of the heavens. Not just anyone could simply defy that will and resist the suppression of their souls. A normal person had great reverence for the heavenly Daos, so they didn't dare to do anything like this. But Qin Feng and Qi Yu were different. They had started undergoing tribulation with Long Chen in the mortal world. Every single time was a fight against the heavens, so they had long since been accustomed to it. Bai Shishi also charged up when she saw the two of them go against the flow. The three of them were attacking the current of lightning, slaughtering those ancient corpses. Many ancient corpses also charged at Long Chen, but before they could even get close, they were devoured by lightning dragons. Just then, those disciples being protected at the rear began to wake up, screaming in pain. They were bound by lightning chains, and runes were being forcibly merged into their bodies. The pain woke them out of their slumber. As the lightning dragons devoured the ancient corpses, a portion of their lightning runes were sent to these disciples. As a result, their skin split open and veins popped on their foreheads. The pain almost drove them insane. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen, I can't endure it. Please let me go. I'm going to die. A disciple cried out. It felt like he was going through the worst torture of his life. His physical body and soul were going to be torn apart. Everyone began to wake up and scream as if they had gone crazy. But bound by the chains, they couldn't escape. Don't worry, you won't die. At most, you'll be driven crazy. Long Chen shrugged helplessly. As more lightning runes were injected into their bodies, they were experiencing a hellish torment. That pain was something that they had never imagined before. Boss, I'm not playing any longer. Let me out. Bai Xiaola screamed, even crying. He felt like he really would die. However, all their pleas fell on deaf ears. Long Chen continued to look up at the sky. Bai Xiaola's mother was also in pain watching this. Bai Xiaola's current state was truly miserable. His eyes looked like they were about to pop out, and he was clearly enduring unimaginable pain. Bai Shishi's mother held her hand and comforted, Junior sister, don't worry. Long Chen won't let Xiaola be injured. In order to transform into a butterfly, you must experience the pain of breaking free of the cocoon. I know, but I can't help feeling aggrieved. Bai Xiaola's mother shook her head tearfully. She understood the principle, but that feeling wasn't something others could comprehend. Bai Zhantong was clenching his teeth furiously. Although he had also beaten up Bai Xiaola for his own good, at least he had held back the appropriate amount. Seeing Bai Xiaola in this state, it felt like his heart was being cut up. Bai Xiaola fainted and woke up from the pain several times. The same occurred to others. But no matter how they cried out, Long Chen ignored them. Bai Shishi was still capable of enduring up in the sky. But Qin Feng and Qi Yu were covered in blood. It was unknown how many wounds they were covered in. These late-stage immortal king corpses all had combat experience. They were actual experts, different from the previous ones. Despite their wounds, the two of them continued to fight. That brave and ruthless fighting style of theirs even shook the Battle God Palace's experts. I heard that Dean Long Chen's Dragonblood Legion has over 10,000 people, and these two are only the most ordinary warriors of them. I can't imagine what they would be like if Dean Long Chen managed to gather them all up again, said one of the Battle God Palace's experts. Qin Feng and Qi Yu's display shocked them all. The two of them were so powerful, to the point that others almost felt like there was no point in living any longer. Neither of them was particularly talented, but they were inexplicably powerful. It was like they lived for battle. Every single one of their moves was executed perfectly without any waste. There were countless times when they brushed right up against death, but just as it seemed as if there was nothing they could do to get out, they slipped right through the danger. Just watching them fight made others sweat, and they felt their hearts clench. Boom. Suddenly, a chain wrapped around Qi Yu's waist and pulled him back. Qi Yu's body was covered in wounds. He was a mass of bloody flesh, but he still shouted, "Boss, I can keep fighting." No need. Save a bit of energy to draw the thunder force into your body. Going too far is as bad as not going far enough, said Long Chen. After a bit, Long Chen also dragged in Qin Feng, having them conserve just the slightest bit of energy so that their minds were still clear. If they were to draw in the thunder force to temper their bodies themselves, it would definitely be much more effective than being forced to have the lightning runes enter their bodies. At this moment, golden light bloomed out of Bai Shishir's body. Her sword qi continued to cut down the ancient corpses. Also, her fear of the ghost Dao's aura had faded. She was capable of unleashing all her power against them. However, there were truly too many of them. Her mental energy was rapidly exhausted, and she was down to less than 30% now. But she continued to persevere. She also knew that this was a rare chance. She had to erase her fear of the ghost Dao. Suddenly, the tribulation clouds rumbled. They began to roil and gather, as if some energy was drawing them in. Boom. Suddenly, the ancient corpses fighting her exploded. Long Chen had a bad feeling rise within him. Lay linger, devour all the lightning. Countless lightning dragons flew into the sky, devouring the lightning runes. But the ones that weren't devoured flew into the clouds. The lightning dragons only managed to absorb half of them before the rest entered the tribulation clouds. After that, the tribulation clouds quivered and began to pull in on themselves. The 10,000 miles of tribulation clouds finally compressed into a humanoid figure. That figure's face then gradually grew clearer. It's him! Long Chen and Bai Shishir cried out at the same time. That person was holding a sword identical to the one in Bai Shishir's hand. This person was the one who Long Chen had stolen the golden sword from on the ghost ship. When he appeared, all the heavenly tribulation's energy was absorbed by him. Standing in the air, he gave off a feeling of looking down on the 9 heavens. He seemed to have come back to life. Only now did Long Chen see that he was a terrifying sword cultivator. He had been replicated by the heavenly Daos. A half-step world king, exclaimed Bai Shishir's mother. His true power is probably even more terrifying than an average world king. Bai Zhantong had a grave expression. Wielding his sword, he appeared outside the barrier. This was an absolutely terrifying existence, so he was ready to save Bai Shishir if something happened. Bai Shishir's mother and Bai Xiaola's mother, as well as the rest of the Battle God Palace's experts, also grew serious. At this moment, Bai Shishir's sword quivered and her battle-intent soared. Facing this terrifying expert of the ghost Dao, she was fearless. She had conquered her fear of the ghost Dao. When Long Chen appeared in front of Bai Shishir, she immediately said, "This is my heavenly tribulation. I will beat him. If you were in your peak condition, I wouldn't stop you. But now your power is less than a third of your peak. You will be at a disadvantage. If you hadn't been undergoing this tribulation with everyone, you would have easily passed your tribulation. Leave this final pass to me. You should save some energy to absorb the final lightning essence," said Long Chen. There was no need to question Bai Shishir's power. But against that terrifying sword Dao expert, in her current state, she would definitely suffer. In truth, Long Chen was also shocked. He almost messed around too much this time. If he hadn't had Lei Linger absorb the lightning runes at the end, this fellow might very likely be in the World King realm. Then things would really be out of control. Since Long Chen had said this, Bai Shishir nodded and didn't continue arguing with him. He was correct. She had used up a great deal of power. If she then lost to this expert of the ghost Dao, her new confidence against them might shatter. Long Chen looked at that expert of the ghost Dao, and this expert also looked back at Long Chen. What shocked Long Chen was that he saw light appear in that expert's eyes. Suddenly he spoke. "You stole my sword." Everyone, including Long Chen, jumped in shock. Just what was going on? How could a life form replicated by the heavenly Daos have its mind intact? How could he speak? "I didn't steal it. I openly snatched it," said Long Chen with a faint smile. He acted calm but was already tightly clenching his saber hilt. The elder looked at him expressionlessly. "Very good." "What part is good?" Long Chen was startled. Suddenly, he found that his intuition was telling him that this expert wasn't angry at all. Instead, he was pleased. "Thank you for helping me find a suitable master for it," said the elder. Both Long Chen and Bai Shishir were stunned. This was completely unexpected. "How did you find me?" asked the elder. However, now he was speaking spiritually, which further shocked Long Chen. Someone replicated by the heavenly tribulation still possessed their soul? On a ghost ship, Long Chen also replied spiritually. Long Chen described how he had encountered a ghost ship and what had happened. Ghost Sovereign, you really are sinister. You killed us and then trillions of years later, you use our corpses to fight for you. Do you wish for us to slaughter the members of our own race? That expert snorted, his voice filled with hatred. Who is the Ghost Sovereign? Asked Long Chen hastily. You will know in the future. Even if you don't find him, he will find you. You set foot on his ghost ship, so you are infected by his karma. Since you have his mark planted on you, you have become his prey. Once you grow up enough, he will find you, said that expert. What will he find me for? Naturally, it is to reap your life. He will take back his mark. The Ghost Sovereign's mark is firmly embedded within you, nourishing your heart devil. Your heart devil is his ultimate goal. Once your heart devil is strong enough, he will reap his harvest. This fucking Ghost Sovereign. He views me as a pig? I will definitely kill him one day. Raged Long Chen. The Ghost Sovereign is the master of the Ghost Tao. In the Battle of the Nine Heavens, he killed countless life forms. His power is not something you can imagine. However, there is also an aura on your body that is different from all other life forms. You are a divergent. All right then. This final wisp of my ghost soul has actually been grasped by the heavenly Taos. I will give you a chance. Boom. Suddenly, the elder's body exploded. He transformed into 8 golden swords that wrapped around by Shishi. Long Chen didn't stop him. The feeling he got was that this expert was an almighty expert of the human race when he was alive. He shouldn't have any malicious intent toward them. The 8 golden swords slowly merged into Bai Shishi's body. After that, Bai Shishi suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. Feeling startled, Long Chen hastily pressed a hand against her forehead. His vast spiritual strength poured into her. These 8 golden swords were actually 8 runes containing endless information. They merged with Bai Shishi, instantly exhausting all of her spiritual strength. Long Chen was helping her keep up. Bai Shishi's spiritual strength was very powerful, but unexpectedly, it was used up even before these runes were done being absorbed. Long Chen's spiritual strength then slowly entered her body, helping her absorb them. Long Chen could sense a huge amount of information entering her soul. Although he didn't know what this information was, his guess was that it was the life's learning of that expert. Almost half of Long Chen's vast spiritual strength was used up before Bai Shishi finished merging with those runes. Furthermore, at this moment, the tribulation clouds were gone. The devils in the distance then roared and charged back. Long Chen ignored them and returned to the academy with everyone. Other than Long Chen, everyone else was unconscious. When the master of the golden sword exploded, other than the 8 golden runes, a huge amount of thunder force was unleashed. Lei Linger naturally didn't waste it. See, it was the final lightning essence, and it was also the strongest part. Lei Linger had absorbed it all and injected a portion into the disciples. As a result, everyone's body was on the verge of collapse. According to Long Chen's instructions, Lei Linger perfectly gave them their max limit of thunder force. Any bit more and they really would die. Once they were back in the academy, countless devils attacked the barrier. Long Chen eyed them with an evil smile. Just wait to be turned into practice partners. The Ghost Sovereign? Why are you asking about him? Asked the sweeping elder, putting down his broom and looking at Long Chen. Long Chen didn't conceal anything. He told the elder about what had happened in the heavenly tribulation, as well as what had happened on the ghost ship. The elder sank into thought. He said, "The Ghost Sovereign is the master of the Ghost Tao. He controls all the lives of the Ghost Tao and is also the strongest existence of the Ghost Tao. His origins have always been a mystery. Some people say that he is a life form from the primal chaos era who cultivated step by step to become the master of the Ghost Tao. Some say that he is the conglomerate resentment from life forms dying over trillions of years. He has longevity as long as heaven and earth, undying and indestructible." Long Chen jumped in shock. This was Long Chen's first time hearing of such a terrifying existence. Someone from the primal chaos era? Undying and indestructible? Why would such a terrifying existence place a mark on me? Asked Long Chen. Because he previously encountered an existence even more terrifying than himself. In that battle, his physical body and soul were destroyed. Even as an undying, indestructible existence, he was badly wounded. For him to recover faster, his subordinates secretly pick out some powerful geniuses and place ghost sovereign marks on them. Once they grow up to a certain extent, they are devoured by their heart devils and become puppets of the ghost sovereign. They then return to the ghost world and become a part of the ghost sovereign's body. However, you are different. Other people have marks placed on them. But you were infected by karma which transformed into the ghost sovereign's mark, replied the elder. His body and soul were destroyed by an existence even more terrifying than him? Asked Long Chen, feeling shocked. What kind of existence could defeat the master of the ghost Dao? You're so smart. You should be able to guess, said the elder with a smile. Long Chen suddenly thought of it and held his breath. Could it be, this thing called karma can truly be marvelous sometimes? No one can say anything for sure about it. Although the ghost sovereign is said to possess an undying body, there are no absolutes. Back then, if the 9-star master had possessed a primal chaos item, the ghost sovereign would have been wiped out of existence. Within the 9 heavens and 10 lands, the only thing capable of killing him is the most primordial primal chaos energy of primal chaos divine items. The 9-star master wounded him, and ever since then he hadn't made a sound. But you, a 9-star heir, ran into a ghost ship with his spiritual mark on it, resulting in a ghost sovereign mark condensing on you. But you don't need to worry. Before reaching the World King realm, he won't be able to notice you. There are truly many ghost sovereign marks. Unless he pulls in the net, you will be safe, said the elder. Only then did Long Chen learn just how terrifying an existence the master of the 9-star hegemon body art was. Even the master of the ghost Dao was slain by him. Long Chen was unable to calm himself down for a long time. Senior, if the 9-star master was so powerful, why did he die? Asked Long Chen. That is something that you 9-star heirs must comprehend on your own. All I can tell you is that the most dangerous existence in the world is the human heart. The elder picked up his broom and continued sweeping. Long Chen knew that the elder was done talking. Clearly, he still knew a great deal but was only able to say so much. After cultivating to this point, Long Chen knew just how terrifying the thing called karma was. Everyone had to be cautious about it. If their mouths had no filter, it was all too easy to harm others. Even supreme experts had to be careful about it. Only through this talk with the elder did Long Chen learn just how big this world was, and just how terrifying it was. However, he was also uneasy. The 9-star master was almost capable of ending the ghost sovereign. But his cultivation technique had now been changed by him, and his progress was slow. Still, he could only rely on himself to bring it forward. There was no way to describe just how much pressure he was under now. At the same time, the little bits of information in his mind combined with the tiny clues he had gathered told him that his future path would not be an easy one. However, this immense pressure also stimulated him. He felt a powerful drive. Born as an ant, longing to be a swan. One's life is as thin as paper, but one should not yield. My life will be controlled by me. I will walk my own path. Long Chen clenched his fists. He knew that he had been drawn into an unimaginable vortex. He was currently getting closer and closer to the heart of that vortex. He still had time to get stronger, so he would accumulate more trump cards to face the challenges of the future. Back in the 7th Branch Academy, other than by Shishi, everyone else was in slumber. Meanwhile, the elders of the academy were busy at work, constantly feeding the unconscious disciples medicine to nourish their souls. Many people had been pushed to the very limit of their physical bodies. Although it was still within the limit of their physical bodies, their souls had not been able to endure that pain, and there were signs that some might grow insane. Fortunately, the soul-calming elixir could nourish their souls while they slept. Those elders also used soul arts to let them enter the land of dreams, calming their souls to avoid a heart devil appearing. As for Long Chen, he returned to his room and then took out a 5-colored seed of the Devil Eye Water Lily. This was a 4th-tier Devil Eye Water Lily, one that was in the same realm as him. Taking out the pill furnace, he carefully refined the seed into medicinal powder. However, he didn't use the Demon Moon Furnace. Instead, he used the Moon and Star Refining Furnace because it had more experience with refining pills. It was more reliable and had a lower chance of failure. This time, he was going to refine the Violet Tower pills. Just the cost of the ingredients was enough to buy a whole city. There were certain ingredients that came from demonic beasts, spirit beasts, and other non-plant ingredients that he couldn't grow. Thus, he couldn't waste any attempts at refining them like before. Eye of the Devil Dragon, Fang of the Blood Bat, Gall of the Deep Sea Serpent, Essence Blood of the Violet Sable. One medicinal ingredient after another was refined into powder. Long Chen was completely focused, not daring to be the slightest bit careless. Just purifying the medicinal ingredients took a full day. Due to his intense concentration, he rested for 2 hours before starting to refine the pill. The 5-colored powder of the Devil Eye Water Lily seed was the first to enter the pill furnace. It was the main ingredient. All other ingredients were controlled by it. When the flame ignited, one powder after another entered. A rainbow mist then appeared within the pill furnace. At the same time, the runes on the pill furnace automatically lit up. What terrifying power! The pill furnace's self-preservation runes have been forced to activate. Long Chen's heart shook. The pill furnace had actually reacted to the refinement and automatically activated its defenses. The rainbow light began to grow turbulent as more medicinal powders entered. It began to crash against the pill furnace. Fortunately, this was no ordinary pill furnace but a day-night furnace. If it was the old king item pill furnace, Long Chen might have needed to give up. This was only the start, but it was already causing such a phenomenon. If the pill furnace wasn't strong enough, it would not be able to endure. Close to 1,000 ingredients entered the pill furnace, and 5-colored light shone brightly. It created a current that crashed against the pill furnace like a surging dragon. Now I have something to play with. Sensing that immense power in the pill furnace, at the same time as he tensed up, Long Chen also grew increasingly excited. All the pill furnace's runes lit up. 5-colored lights surged within the pill furnace, crashing against the pill furnace like wild beasts trying to break free. Good thing I got a new pill furnace. That old pill furnace would have broken from this power. Long Chen's heart gradually relaxed when he saw that the Moon and Star Refining Furnace was able to endure this onslaught. Long Chen wiped off some sweat from his forehead. His nerves were tense as he was using up a vast amount of spiritual strength. In the past, when he refined pills, it was usually based on spiritual plants. Those pills possessed gentle and mild natures. However, the Violet Tower pill was refined from many ingredients that came from beasts. That made the pill's nature particularly violent. It was like countless beasts were fighting within the pill furnace. The Violet Tower pill's quality was increased when the power of the ingredients was stimulated. So, all of this violence was helping to draw out the potential of the ingredients. If instead this nature was forcibly erased, most of the medicinal nature would fade away as well. Thus, letting them fight and clash against each other was the best method. That violent nature would slowly be worn down. Roars rang out from within the pill furnace, and countless powers were clashing against each other, none capable of subduing the others. At first, there were countless powers crazily fighting within the 5-colored light. But as time passed, the battle grew more and more intense, and some powers gradually seemed to subdue and devour the others. After a while, 5 streams of power remained, crazily fighting each other. After another incense stick's worth of time, the 5 powers merged into one. When those 5 powers merged, they formed an immense force that crashed against the pill furnace. Long Chen pressed his hand against the lid, afraid that they would charge out and ruin all his efforts. The immense force was making his arm numb. Long Chen couldn't help being shocked inside. The impact of this medicinal pill was almost equivalent to a full-power late-stage Divine Lord's attack. There were 9 impacts in total. The 9th time in the end caused the whole room to quiver. Long Chen almost couldn't hold it. After the ninth impact, the pill furnace finally became calm. Long Chen then carefully opened the lid. But all of a sudden, 9 rays of light shot at Long Chen's eyes. The sensation of mortal danger made Long Chen instinctively take out his saber. Boom! The 9 divine lights shattered. Fuck! Long Chen cursed furiously. Shattered remains of medicinal pills lay on the ground. He had just refined a good furnace of pills only to destroy them with his saber in the next moment. Everything was for nothing. His face was dark with anger. Just now, in his excitement, he had made a grievous mistake. He had forgotten that the higher the tier of a pill, the greater its spirituality. Unwilling to be trapped, those higher tier pills would directly kill the alchemist and flee. This was something that he had often seen in the later stages of the mortal world. However, in the immortal world, due to there being different laws, he had not refined any pills that possessed their own spirits, causing him to forget about this matter. Unexpectedly, the Violet Tower pill had its own spirit and even tried to kill him. Long Chen instinctively counterattacked, destroying them by accident. Most infuriating of all, he hadn't even gotten a look at what the pills looked like. He angrily plopped himself on the ground. After 2 hours, he finally settled his emotions and started on the next furnace of pills. The second refinement went much smoother than the last. Long Chen had the experience, and the moon and star refining furnace was also prepared. While working together, everything went very smoothly. The second furnace of pills quickly formed. This time, he was prepared, and when the pills came flying out, he unleashed a punch. The divine light shattered, and blood dripped down Long Chen's fist. The attack power of these medicinal pills was truly powerful. That was naturally why when they attacked last time, he instinctively counterattacked without holding back. This time, after the divine light was shattered, the 9 pills were not damaged. They floated in the air just like that. The pills sparkled brightly, with divine light flowing within them. At the core of every pill was a blooming lily. The lily had some tiny spots. When Long Chen's mind entered those spots, he found himself in a different world. This world was a lily flower with violet chi swirling on top of it. Immortal mist rose out of the ground, and fierce beasts were roaming around the land. They were the beasts whose ingredients were part of the pill formula. However, compared to the giant lily, they were minute. They lived in this world. Long Chen even saw 2 of the beasts fighting each other. One flower, one world. Long Chen sighed in amazement. The Violet Tower pill was truly terrifying. It seemed to contain boundless power. Furthermore, that violet immortal mist seemed to the purest, most primeval immortal chi of the world. They're all top-grade treasure pills. Perhaps it's due to the tiers of the ingredients being so high. Originally, Long Chen had felt that refining top-grade spirit pills would be something to celebrate. He hadn't expected the first furnace of pills to all be top-grade treasure pills. Upon thinking about it carefully, this was the result of the quality of the ingredients, the refining technique, and the power of the pill furnace combined. That was what resulted in such a shocking outcome. Long Chen looked at the Violet Tower pills adoringly. This was his first time seeing such a beautiful pill. Every pill seemed to contain its own world. It was a beautiful feeling. However, Long Chen didn't immediately devour them. He first sent them into the primal chaos space for Lei Linger to use her thunder force to nourish them, turning them into Tribulation pills. That way, they could unleash their maximum potential. Refining a single furnace of Violet Tower pills was truly taxing. Furthermore, the medicinal ingredients that didn't come from plants couldn't be reproduced limitlessly by the primal chaos space. Every bit that he used was gone. Who knew when Zheng Wenlong would be able to gather more? Long Chen had to be meticulous with these ingredients. He couldn't entirely depend on others. Long Chen spent days refining the Violet Tower pills, working 7 consecutive days and nights. Although he did rest in between, he was still weary. But in these 7 days, he had refined 1,000 Violet Tower pills. He then gave them to Lei Linger to nourish. Only once they successfully became Tribulation pills would he consume them. After that, Long Chen returned to his residence and fell asleep. This one nap lasted 3 days. Refining the Violet Tower pills was just too exhausting. He only restored his mental energy after 3 days of sleeping. It had been a full 10 days since the Tribulation. Although there were still devils assaulting them, the academy had plenty of provisions. Everyone was able to sleep peacefully. During this time, the Battle God Palace's experts actually went out once to gather the devil crystals from the devils that were killed by the Grand Formation. Furthermore, Long Chen was very magnanimous, directly saying that those devil cores went to whoever found them, and that there was no need to pay the academy. Hence, these experts all felt him to be the very picture of generosity, letting them make no small sum so easily. When Long Chen asked about the disciples, he was told that the majority were still sleeping. Long Chen couldn't help frowning. Had he gone a bit too far this time? They still hadn't woken up even after all this time. Long Chen. Suddenly, Bai Shishi appeared. When Long Chen saw her current state, he jumped in shock. Chapter 3455 Bai Shishi's luck. The current Bai Shishi seemed to be an entirely different person. Her gaze was so sharp it seemed that it could pierce a person's soul. Moreover, there were countless runes revolving and evolving within her eyes. It was like the workings of a field of stars. There seemed to be endless power hidden within her body, and even Long Chen felt immense pressure when he looked at her. "You really merged with that person's inheritance?" asked Long Chen in shock. Bai Shishi shook her head. "Only some of the superficial information so far. His Tao is too profound, and I cannot comprehend them in this realm. Thus, 99% of the divine runes are sealed in my soul, and I am working to comprehend them." Amazing! Just comprehending some superficial information is enough to completely transform you. Once you comprehend it all, won't you be unrivaled? Long Chen was delighted. Bai Shishi smiled. "Long Chen, it really is all thanks to you. I would have never encountered such an opportunity if it hadn't been for you. I suspect that this senior was a terrifying divine venerate back when he was alive. Obtaining his inheritance is enough to change my entire life." Long Chen was stunned by that. Bai Shishi had obtained that person's inheritance, so she should have a certain understanding of him. She wouldn't blindly guess such a thing. If she said that he was a divine venerate, then he probably had reached that realm. That divine venerate had actually died to the Ghost Sovereign. The Ghost Sovereign had then placed his corpse on the Ghost ship. Clearly, the Ghost Sovereign was planning on using him again. It really was just as he said. The Ghost Sovereign wouldn't let him off even in death. Not only that, but this divine venerate didn't seem to hold much resentment at being killed by the Ghost Sovereign. That would imply that he was fully convinced of his defeat. Even a powerful divine venerate like him was slain by the Ghost Sovereign. From this, it could be seen just how terrifying of an existence the latter was. However, even then, he was almost wiped out of existence by the 9-Star Master. So just how powerful was the 9-Star Master? If the 9-Star Master was so powerful, why had he died? In the end, he transformed into countless seeds of vengeance. Just who was the target of that vengeance? Seeing Long Chen's bewildered expression, Bai Shishi looked around. Since there was no one else around, she blushed and grabbed his hands. She softly said, "Don't worry, even if my power surpasses yours, I'll do my best to listen to you." Bai Shishi's voice was very quiet. A very rare expression appeared on her face, one that truly shook his heart. He was enraptured by her beauty. Seeing Long Chen foolishly staring at her, Bai Shishi blushed even more. But she still held his hands. It was only after a long moment that Long Chen recovered. Bai Shishi was a peerless beauty, but she was even more moving like this. If before this she was a fairy untouched by the mortal world, now she was like a fairy that had fallen into the mortal world. A bit of that immortal aura was replaced with mortal air. It was that trace of mortal air that made Long Chen feel like she was more real. He could also clearly sense her inner heart. "Do your best? You mean that you might not listen? At that time, I won't be able to beat you, so won't I be suppressed by you every single day? Will you be like your mother that day, and put your father in his place, but instead it's me?" asked Long Chen with a smile. Bai Shishi hastily explained, "I definitely won't beat you. I said I'd do my best because if you make the wrong decision, I naturally have the right to disagree. As expected, it was still that same character. It seemed that she was always leaving herself a way out. Long Chen bitterly smiled inside. Putting it frankly, it didn't matter how grateful she was to him, she definitely wouldn't blindly follow him. Cough, cough. Just then Qin Feng and Qiyu came over and saw the two of them holding hands. Theoretically, they should leave at this moment. However, if they just left like this, it would be too obvious, so they lowered their heads and coughed as if they hadn't seen anything. Bai Shishi hastily pulled her hands away, her face burning. She then turned around. Oh boss, Alliance head Shishi, what a coincidence. You're here. Qin Feng raised his head and acted like he had just seen them. Although everyone knew it was an act, at least it wouldn't further embarrass Bai Shishi. Sometimes, a loincloth was very interesting. It was a bit comical, but there was a big difference between wearing it and not wearing it. No matter how strong a person was, they needed it. Not bad, the lightning has tempered your bodies. Your physical bodies are more than 10 times stronger than before. Long Chen sensed the surging blood qi within their bodies and nodded. This time, the results were even a bit better than he had expected. Perhaps it was due to the final compression of the heavenly tribulation, forming that elder. The lightning contained that elder's soul energy. It was then absorbed by Lei Linger and injected into their bodies, causing even their souls to strengthen. Their 4 peaks were the flesh, bone, qi, and blood. To put it frankly, they simply raised the power of their physical bodies as high as possible because of their fighting styles. A powerful physical body was their foundation. However, this time, due to the elder, it wasn't just their physical bodies that were strengthened to the maximum. Their spiritual strength had also increased. A powerful spiritual strength increased the sharpness of their senses and gave them more precise control over their techniques. And NBSP, they had all benefited from Bai Shishi, and not just a little bit. It could be said that the two of them had greatly profited. The two of you aren't getting any younger. Have you not found any ladies that attract your eyes? My Heaven Female Alliance has countless beauties. Are you acting aloof, or do you feel that they aren't a match for you? Asked Bai Shishi, recovering her normal indifference. Long Chen was speechless. It seemed that Bai Shishi didn't want to be embarrassed by herself and wanted the two of them to find companions as well. If it was just Qin Feng, then fine. But Qiyu already had someone. Qin Feng smiled. We are just ordinary dragon blood warriors. There are the squad leaders above us and then the captains above them. Even the captains haven't found any partners. How can we be qualified? When the captains drank together, they told us that unless they had power like bosses, they wouldn't be qualified to find partners. Without enough power, they can't even protect themselves, let alone their loved ones. Even someone as powerful as boss could only watch as dash. Qin Feng. Qiyu suddenly glared at Qin Feng, causing him to apologetically look at Long Chen. Sorry boss. He was about to say that even someone as powerful as Long Chen had not been able to protect the pill fairy back then. How could they be qualified to find a companion for themselves? He had inadvertently touched upon Long Chen's scar. Long Chen smiled slightly and indicated that it was fine. Bai Shishi knew of his relationship with the pill fairy. It seemed that they were using him as a model and didn't want to experience the same pain. It's fine. Tell your Heaven Female Alliance's beauties to just wait. Once our boss rules the world, our Dragonblood Legion will warmly welcome all your people, laughed Qin Feng. A nice thought. Bai Shishi knew that Qin Feng was just joking around, so just as he wished, she closed this topic of discussion. Boss, we came to find you because we want to exercise our bones, said Qin Feng seriously. Go. Just pay attention to the Devil Eye Water Lily race and you'll be fine, said Long Chen. He knew their power and their characters, and they wouldn't mess around. They simply wanted to use battles to solidify their realms and get used to their new power. With Long Chen's assent, the two of them happily ran off. Once they were gone, Long Chen said, Let's go take a look at Xiaola and the others. Chapter 3456 Su Zixiong's Barbarian Blood Power of everyone that had undergone tribulation, only Bai Shishi, Qin Feng, and Qiyu were awake. The others were still asleep. They had severely overdrafted themselves. Fortunately, Qin Feng and Qi Yu were dragon blood warriors with strong bases and firm wills, so they woke up sooner than the others. However, for the others, those ancient corpses had brought fear, and then the pain of the forced lightning tempering had also injured their minds. They needed to rest longer. After all, not every person was like the dragon blood warriors and had experienced so many trials and torments, creating a will as firm as a boulder. Martial uncle. When Long Chen entered the training hall, the first person he saw was Luo Changwu going through the disciples, checking on them one by one. Luo Changwu had stayed here this whole time. Long Chen had already told everyone to respect him and view him as another member of the 7th Branch Academy. They couldn't neglect him. Thus, Luo Changwu had almost absolute authority to come and go around. However, he had remained here this entire time. Every day, every few hours, he would investigate the bodies of the Luo family's disciples. Every single time he did so, his emotions would stir and wouldn't settle for a long time. This time, these children had truly transformed because of this tribulation. Every single one of them had managed to awaken their ancestral bloodline under the pressure of death, which meant their potential had been excavated to the limit. If he hadn't personally witnessed it, he still wouldn't believe it. Even now, he felt like he was dreaming. He was afraid that he would wake up and everything would return to as it was before the tribulation. When Long Chen arrived, Luo Changwu hastily rose, but Long Chen pressed him down and sat beside him. "Martial uncle, it seems that you don't trust me," said Long Chen, seeing the lines of blood in Luo Changwu's eyes. He was clearly worried and anxious. "How can you say that? Is this not because I'm worried that this group of disappointing children won't be able to endure?" Luo Changwu laughed awkwardly. He truly was worried. These disciples had their minds and spirits in chaos after the tribulation. Moreover, the flames of their souls had almost been extinguished. In other words, they were only the slightest bit more alive than dead people. Compared to other families, the Luo family cared more about every member of their family. It wasn't simply caring more about those with the most talent. Every descendant was like their own child, and they had to be cherished. And NBSP, thus, seeing all these children in this half-dead state as the head of the family, he was naturally worried. But as time passed and they recovered, he stopped worrying. After the worry came excitement. Every time he checked, he found that these children's bodies had strengthened a bit. After the storm of worry came joy. Even as an immortal king, these tumultuous emotions were difficult to endure. That was why Luo Changwu seemed so weary. "I already told you. The Academy's elders are here, so there's no need for you to worry," said Long Chen. "I know that the elders are trustworthy. But how can I leave my family's disciples for others to look after?" said Luo Changwu. This was the most exciting time of his life. Enduring through this was the least he could do. Long Chen then looked toward the distant Bai Xiaola, whose face was pale white. He had clearly overdrafted his soul greatly. After all, his physical body wasn't strong, so the lightning tempering was many times more painful for him than others. When Long Chen checked on him, he saw that his physical body had fully recovered. Only his soul was still badly damaged. According to the elder beside him, Bai Zhantang and his 2 wives had just left. Bai Xiaola's mother wanted to help Bai Xiaola recover but was stopped by Bai Zhantang. Unable to endure seeing her son in this state while she was powerless to help, she then left. Long Chen nodded. Bai Xiaola needed to recover on his own because external forces would spoil his current condition. Even the gentlest energy could have an influence. However, Bai Xiaola was indeed in a dangerous state. His soul was on the verge of collapse. Thus, his soul and will had to struggle, drawing out all their power to protect their master from dying. If someone were to help Bai Xiaola in this state, it would be like throwing him a life jacket. He would quickly pass through this moment. However, that would cause him to lose out on this tempering opportunity. Long Chen hoped for Bai Xiaola to create a life jacket for himself without anyone saving him. What was important wasn't the life jacket but the ability to create one. Long Chen then fed Bai Xiaola a medicinal pill. This pill guaranteed that the flame of his soul wouldn't extinguish, but it was only a final barrier. If he wanted to wake up, he would need to rely on himself. If within 10 days he still didn't awaken, then someone would be forced to intervene to wake him up. Otherwise, he really would die. Boss. Just then, Zixiong woke up. After waking up, he felt full of energy, and his mind and body were in top condition. In fact, it felt like he had so much power that he would explode. His current state made everyone jump. Zixiong's aura was even more terrifying than Qin Feng and Qi Yu's now. This was completely unexpected to everyone. Barbarian blood energy? Long Chen was also surprised. Long Chen sensed an aura that was somewhat similar to Wild's from Zixiong. This was the aura of the barbarian race. He hadn't expected this tribulation to cause Zixiong's barbarian blood to show signs of returning to its ancestral state. The barbarian race was a species from the primal chaos era. Legend had it that despite appearing similar to the human race, they were not the same. The barbarian race didn't cultivate divine abilities. In this case, they were a bit similar to the demonic beast race, relying on bloodline inheritances. However, their power was such that they shook the 10,000 races. Legend had it that in the primal chaos era, the giant barbarian race could move mountains and overturn seas with a wave of their hands. Even dragons and phoenixes were their food. Although Zixiong had a trace of barbarian blood, it was so diluted that it was almost gone. It was like a candle about to extinguish. However, after this tribulation, the candle was revitalized. Moreover, it was no longer a candle but a prairie fire. This was something that Long Chen hadn't anticipated. Long Chen then pressed a hand against Zixiong's shoulder. His vast energy erupted in an instant. As a result, Zixiong was caught off guard and coughed up blood. Bai Shishi, Luocha, and the other elders present jumped in shock, not knowing what was going on. Zixiong's head buzzed. The threat of death instantly activated all the power within him. Zixiong's body quivered and countless runes on it lit up. Following that, his body began to grow. It was like a wild beast was awakening within his body. His power crazily climbed. Remember this state and this feeling. This is called the Barbarian Blood Battle Body. Starting today, it is your strongest move. Long Chen pressed down once more on Zixiong and smiled. He had misjudged this fellow. His potential was truly not bad. At this moment, a new fierce general had appeared in the Dragonblood Legion. Chapter 3457 Deep Sea Fiend Devils. Long Chen then checked on the conditions of the others. There were no problems. Lei Linger had grown increasingly strong and was able to accurately deduce every person's potential. She had forced them as close to their limits as possible but didn't exceed the limits. In particular, that final explosion of the Master of the Golden Sword resulted in his remaining spiritual strength being spread throughout the lightning runes. A portion was absorbed by Shishi, while the disciples were only able to absorb a very small portion. The rest was digested by Lei Linger. Lei Linger had started to transform after absorbing this spiritual strength. Most shocking of all, she had also peered into the runes that had merged into Shishi. As Shishi digested those runes, Lei Linger also digested them. She was in a state of slumber right now, focusing on digesting those runes. Only a portion of her power was helping Long Chen temper the medicinal pills. Long Chen knew that once Lei Linger came out of seclusion again, she would definitely have gone through a shocking transformation. Everyone was fine. Based on Long Chen's estimate, they should all wake up within 5 to 6 days. Long Chen told Luocha not to worry. After checking on them, Long Chen continued refining pills. Shishi and Zixiong joined Qin Feng and Qi Yu, attacking the devils outside the barrier to get accustomed to their new power. With Shishi present, even if a World King Devil were to appear, they wouldn't need to worry. Long Chen wasn't worried about them at all. Long Chen then spent another week refining Violet Tower pills and slept another 3 days. Once he woke up, he went to find Xiaola, just in time to see him with his mother, getting accustomed to his new power. When Xiaola saw Long Chen, he shouted excitedly. After waking up, his 3 flower pupils had become multicolored. As it turned out, those with the 3 flower pupils' bloodlines saw the world in only black and white. Only once the 3 flower pupils had evolved to a higher level could they see color. Hence, this was Bai Xiaola's first time seeing a world of beautiful colors. He was so happy that he wept. Bai Xiaola's mother was also crying. Bai Xiaola had had an innate deficiency. She had thought that he would never be able to awaken the colored 3 flower pupils. Now that they had awakened, she was even more emotional than Bai Xiaola. Those eyes are really beautiful. Xiaola, you're growing more handsome, praised Longchen. The light in his eyes seemed to have heavenly Tao energy flowing within it. Bai Xiaola's talent was truly enviable. Bai Xiaola was even more excited at obtaining Longchen's praise. He felt like his whole body was full of power. His body was originally weak, but after the baptism of the heavenly tribulation, it was dozens of times stronger. Although it still only counted as average amongst ordinary disciples, to an eye cultivator, that was already very impressive. A powerful physical body made his movements more agile, and he could form hand seals faster. He would also be able to avoid his enemies as he used his pupil arts, making things much safer for him. When Bai Xiaola learned that the others had awakened and already entered the battlefield, his hands instantly got itchy. He wanted to fight as well. However, both Long Chen and his mother told him no. Long Chen said, "You are different. You severely overdraft your soul. Although you've recovered, your spiritual strength is still in a weak state." Eye cultivators could be considered a type of soul cultivators. Bai Xiaola's soul was so badly damaged this time that although he had recovered and his spiritual strength was exceptionally powerful now, it would be wise not to use his spiritual strength during this time. For the best results, he should wait until his spiritual strength reached max power. Perhaps Bai Zheol wouldn't listen to his mother, but he didn't dare to disobey Long Chen. He ran over just to cheer on the Bai Shishi and the others. Now Long Chen arrived at the plaza and saw mountains of corpses piled up outside the barrier. The academy was almost buried in corpses. As the disciples came out of seclusion, they all felt like they had inexhaustible energy. Then seeing an endless supply of devils to fight, they used them as training partners, slaughtering them. All of them were full of inexhaustible energy, and they crazily slaughtered those devils. When they saw that they could easily kill those devils that had once filled them with fear, they were delighted. It almost drove them crazy, and they could barely contain their excitement. If they did get tired from the training, they would return to the academy and rest for an hour or two before going back out again. They used this fighting to solidify their realms and get accustomed to their new power. They were experiencing just how much they had progressed. It felt like they had completely transformed. This was a new era for them. All the experts of the academy were watching. When they saw these disciples descend like a flock of wolves on these devils, they couldn't help sighing. Once these disciples grew up, they would truly be amazing. Having just advanced to the Divine Lord realm, they already possessed the power to fight mortal tier immortal king devils. That kind of combat power was astonishing. If it was just 1 or 2 people with that power, it wouldn't be strange. But for over 10,000 of them, disciples who were originally merely primals without any shocking bloodlines or inheritances, to suddenly become such peerless heavenly geniuses completely toppled their understanding. Seeing these fearless, unmatched disciples of the Luo family, Luo Changwu's eyes reddened. If only his big brother and the rest of the seniors of the Luo family were here, they could celebrate together. In the distance, they could see flashes of golden light. Wherever that golden light appeared, it created a line of death. Those devils were blasted out of existence. They were unable to even see Bai Shishi's figure. They merely saw flashes of light and splashes of blood. Her golden sword was unstoppable. Even the Battle God Palace's immortal kings were stunned. Bai Shishi's mother watched proudly. After this tribulation, Bai Shishi would soar to the heavens. Long Chen went out of the barrier too. Everyone thought that his hands had gotten itchy as well. However, they saw him simply wave his hand and gather the mountains of corpses piled up around the academy. In just a few breaths' time, the ground was cleared. A waterfall of devil crystals came pouring out, forming a large hill. The devil crystals were the size of a baby's fist. Just seeing so many of them at once dazzled people. The academy had elders taking inventory of them. That was money, and no small sum at that. If this continues, the 7th Branch Academy won't be hurt at all. Instead, they'll profit. They're basically sending us money, said Bai Shishir's mother with a smile. With Long Chen present, they didn't need to work to clean up the battlefield. All the devil crystals were instantly taken out. These devil crystals were valued at around 100,000 immortal king crystals. Counting how many immortal king crystals they had used up so far, they had essentially made up for their costs. If they continued killing, it would be profitable. It truly was a hell of a battle of attrition. Suddenly, the void rumbled and mists covered the battlefield. After that, a terrible stench assaulted their noses. In the distance, countless large beasts came charging over to the academy. Chapter 3458. Who runs out of patience first? That aura was that of the Devil Sea. They were sea demons from the depths of the sea, but they didn't possess the aura of demonic beasts. Instead, they possessed devil chi. These deep-sea fiend devils that appeared were at least in the early stage immortal king realm. But there were some strong ones that had reached the half-step world king level. An ominous and frightening aura struck the disciples in the face when they appeared. At this moment, a heaven-shaking roar rang out from a half-step world king drake. It was like an order, and following its roar, countless deep-sea fiend devils charged at the 7th Branch Academy. Those devil experts that came from the devil world didn't clash with them. They intentionally opened up a path for them to attack the academy. As expected, it really is just like the dean said. The attack on the main academy is nothing more than a front. Their real goal is the 7th Branch Academy. Long Chen sneered with contempt. These deep-sea fiend devils were only putting on an act in the heavenly swell domain. The main force was here. However, this place was quite some distance away from the Devil Sea, and these fiend devils were greatly weakened once they left the Devil Sea. Were they coming just to give Long Chen money? Their devil crystals and devil cores were all treasures. The devil cores in particular were very valuable. Were they worried that the 7th Branch Academy was lacking money? Bai Shishi immediately shot toward them. With a slash of her sword, golden light lit up, and that roaring drake was cut in two. Even a half-step world king deep-sea fiend devil was unable to stop a single strike from that sword. And NBSP, previously, although the golden sword had recognized Bai Shishi as master, Bai Shishi had not been able to unleash its true power. But after obtaining the inheritance of its old master, she was finally able to activate the golden sword's runes. That drake scales gave it a defensive power comparable to a king item, but the scales were still unable to stop the sword. The golden sword light was incomparably sharp. The waves it unleashed cut through these giant deep-sea fiend devils like they were radishes. One with her sword, Bai Shishi slaughtered those devils until she gradually started to push them further and further away from the academy. Don't go too far. They have experts keeping an eye that far out, so your current position is the limit. Don't go any further. But you also don't need to be in a rush to come back. Just keep killing them like this, slowly retreating. Don't let them see through you. Just then, Long Chen's voice rang out in Bai Shishi's ear. Bai Shishi was startled. She didn't sense anyone watching her, but she trusted Long Chen. Just at that moment, a half-step world king fiend devil sneak attacked her, causing her to be forced back slightly. She then continued killing the devils around that area. Long Chen smiled slightly. When this girl actually listened, she was very likable. And NBSP, seeing Long Chen's smile, she replied with her own smile. But when she saw her mother staring at her with a certain expression, she turned red and instantly turned her face away, ignoring Long Chen and the others to kill the fiend devils. Bai Shishi was the main force on the battlefield now. Whatever area was struggling, she would charge over. This battle continued for 10 days and nights just like that, but she wasn't the slightest bit tired. Clearly, a battle on this level was not extraneous enough for her. She could replenish whatever energy she used. Other than Bai Shishi, everyone else needed to occasionally return and rest a bit. Anytime they dropped down to just 50% of their spiritual yuan, they took a break. Otherwise, they would be in trouble if they encountered danger. Qin Feng and Chi Yu took 3 breaks during these 10 days. The rest of the time was spent on the battlefield, as they were in charge of the tempo of the battlefield. Only once things started growing out of control would they have Bai Shishi come help. However, unexpectedly, Su Zixiong would fight for 3 hours and then immediately return for a break. His power was astonishing. Every blow shattered the void. But after only a bit, he would run out of energy and return. "Boss, is there something wrong with me? I don't have any endurance anymore." Su Zixiong eventually went to ask Long Chen about this. He was panting and he sat on the ground, soaked in sweat. He seemed to be on the verge of collapse. This time in particular, he had only been able to fight for an hour before running out of energy and returning. Although his newfound power was delightful, the lack of endurance made it hard for him to be happy about it. Long Chen checked his body. His blood qi was still thrumming powerfully, so there was no problem. Such a situation should not occur, no? It had to be known that Su Zixiong was not even fighting with the barbarian blood battle body yet. It shouldn't be this exhausting. Long Chen suddenly had a thought and pulled in a giant 8-clawed fish monster. Flames flew out of his hand, instantly cooking the fish. After that, a fragrant smell came out. Saliva instantly gushed out of Su Zixiong's mouth. He couldn't even stop it. "You didn't eat any meat. Try eating some meat this time." Su Zixiong instantly latched onto the fish. As expected, after eating just a few mouthfuls, he was no longer so exhausted. Long Chen found the problem. With the awakening of his barbarian blood, Su Zixiong could not walk his original cultivation path. Just like Wild, he needed to eat meat. Just now, it wasn't that he was out of energy but that he was exhausted from starvation. Su Zixiong had always been cultivating according to the human race's standards. He relied on absorbing spiritual qi and rarely ate anything. So, the sensation of hunger had already been forgotten. Now that he ate something, he knew that it wasn't that he was out of energy. He was simply starving. Long Chen then took out a copper furnace. This was a fire attribute weapon and wasn't a pill furnace. Long Chen gave it to Su Zixiong. He taught Su Zixiong how to use it to cook these sea demons. When their corpses were drawn inside, they would be quickly cooked and stored so that he could conveniently eat them to replenish his energy. After just a bit, Su Zixiong felt like he was full of power. With Long Chen's copper furnace, he shot through the battlefield, gathering the corpses of the more powerful sea demons as his food. Now that he wasn't hungry anymore, he was like an entirely different person. With 3 strikes of his rod, a half-step world king tortoise had its shell broken. That fierceness made Long Chen think of Wild. Wild was a pure-blooded member of the barbarian race. His energy was replenished by eating food, not immortal spiritual qi. But his power was definitely the most terrifying of all the life forms that Long Chen had ever seen. "I wonder how that foolish brother of mine is doing." Long Chen sighed. This foolish brother of his could easily be conned and tricked by others. Wild was just different. Su Zixiong didn't have Wild's digestive abilities and couldn't devour those sea demons in giant quantities, so he ate much slower. Time passed and mountains of corpses piled up once more. Just as they seemed like they would drown the academy, Long Chen cleaned up the battlefield again. The corpses were then tossed into the primal chaos space, and Lei Linger transformed into millions of knives that cut open the corpses, taking out their devil cores and devil crystals. As a result, another small mountain of devil crystals and devil cores fell to the ground. Long Chen looked into the distance and sneered. "Let's see who runs out of patience first." Chapter 3459 Major Bad Turn of Events. Long Chen, what are you waiting for? Asked Bai Shishi's mother. This was something that Bai Zhantong had wanted to ask for a long time, but he was unable to lower himself to do so. He had already received orders to listen to Long Chen, and he could not argue. Hence, they had passed through these days like fools. Bai Zhantong was already getting a bit irritated at just sitting around, but he also wasn't allowed to leave. He could only watch as his precious daughter made eyes at Long Chen, making him feel extremely out of sorts. Bai Shishi's mother knew what he was thinking, so she came to ask Long Chen this question for her husband. Long Chen nodded. "Someone is watching us. Like leopards in the shadows, they are preparing to unleash a mortal blow." Can you see them? Bai Shirshi's mother was surprised. Long Chen was looking in a certain direction. It had to be known that the High Firmament Academy's formation was capable of overlooking the majority of the Vile Dragon domain. If anyone was spying on them, they should have long since noticed them. I can't see them, but I can smell their scent. They really do view me as a child. How could I fall for the same ploy twice? Sneered Long Chen. He didn't say much. He was very familiar with Enpuda's aura, so he could feel that this damn fatty was keeping an eye on him. Enpuda was waiting for Long Chen to reveal an opening. At first, Long Chen only had a vague feeling, but the moment Bai Shishi charged out, that feeling became clear. In other words, when Bai Shishi charged out, the other side prepared to make their move. Furthermore, the place that Bai Shishi had charged to was on the edge of the formation's attack range. Once she passed that area, the formation's attack power would drop. Thus, it was very simple for Long Chen to deduce the other side's intentions and range. After all, Long Chen was willing to just continue grinding away like this. Just who would lose their patience first? Furthermore, Long Chen didn't just sense Enpuda's aura. He also sensed another terrifying existence. After advancing to the Divine Lord realm, his senses were even sharper. He wasn't afraid at all. The other side was using the Devil World and the Devil Sea's life forms as bait. However, Bai Shishi and the others were consuming the bait without getting hooked. All that was left was to see just how much bait the other side was willing to toss out. This response from Long Chen startled Bai Shirshi's mother and the others. Long Chen had almost lost his life due to Enpuda's scheming. Now that he raised that topic, it was clear who was on the other side. Enpuda had personally come? Even Bai Zhantong couldn't believe that. Enpuda wasn't in this heaven. If he were to come across heavens, he would have to pay a huge price. That didn't seem too likely. com/ov/elb/n/net. However, Long Chen wouldn't make this up. Everyone looked at each other in shock and confusion. They couldn't help tensing up. They didn't pursue this topic any further. Bai Letian had already told them to listen to Long Chen. It would only cause irritation if they needlessly asked questions, and there would even be a slight flavor of wanting to take over. In one day, Long Chen gained a large pile of devil crystals and devil cores. The others were fighting the entire time, training themselves. As a result, their realms gradually stabilized, and they came to control their new power. The second day also ended with huge gains. Other than Bai Shishi, everyone was taking turns to rest. Of the over 10,000 disciples, the majority had fully stabilized their realms. After 5 days, every disciple had finished stabilizing their realms. Now their attacks grew even sharper. At the same time, they began to consume Divine Lord pills, using this battle to cultivate. Even after 10 days, nothing changed with the other side, so Long Chen also didn't make any changes. He just refined pills in his room occasionally while he kept an eye on the battle. Long Chen was delighted that during this time, Lei Linger had managed to fully absorb the energy from both tribulations. She was now entirely focused on nourishing the Violet Tower pills. The Violet Tower pills were actually too strong and possessed their own wills. Nourishing them required patience and steadiness. One careless slip and they would detonate. Furthermore, during this time, Huolinger and the Moon and Star Refining Furnace started trying to refine the pills themselves. The only issue was that Huolinger didn't have Long Chen's powerful spiritual strength, so Long Chen needed to split a portion of his spiritual strength to help. Despite that, Long Chen saved himself quite a bit of effort by not having to personally refine anything. In order to make sure that every Violet Tower pill's effect was maximized, Long Chen patiently waited for Lei Linger to expel all the impurities with Thunder Force. The stronger the pill, the more difficult it was to nourish them. But Long Chen was capable of waiting. Another 10 days passed. The number of attackers had not diminished in the slightest. It seemed that the other side was really planning on dragging out this battle. Fuck, what medicine are they taking? After waiting so long, there was still no reply from the other side. Bai Zhantong was getting vexed. Long Chen also felt that something was wrong. The other side was truly being patient, more than he had expected. It didn't make sense for them to simply be sending Long Chen money. However, The formation was still keeping an eye on everything. There was nothing odd. But the more he couldn't see anything odd, the more he felt that something was wrong. "Is everything still fine at the main academy?" asked Long Chen. "Everything is normal," answered Heaven Master Yun Yang. Long Chen sank into thought. Suddenly, his heart thudded and his expression changed so drastically that everyone jumped. "What is it?" asked Bai Shishir's mother. "I think I know their goal. Deputy Dean Yun Yang, I have a mission for you. Stealthily activate all the grand formations," said Long Chen. "All of them?" Heaven Master Yun Yang jumped. If the grand formations were fully activated, it would burn 100 times more immortal king crystals than usual. One day would cost hundreds of thousands of immortal king crystals. Thus, despite clearly hearing Long Chen's order, he still needed confirmation. Yes, activate them all. Furthermore, it must be done stealthily without anyone being the wiser. "This relates to the survival of the academy, so you must be careful," said Long Chen. Seeing how serious Long Chen was, Heaven Master Yun Yang didn't dare to tarry any longer. He immediately left and personally supervised the activation. Heaven Master Yun Yang and Heaven Master Dong Ming were fully trusted by Long Chen. They were very dependable and meticulous. If Long Chen left anything to them, he could feel at ease about it. Even Bai Zhantong and the others tensed when they heard this. The survival of the academy was at stake? Such a thing rarely came out of Long Chen's mouth. That alone showed how serious this matter was. Just what happened? Bai Zhantong couldn't help asking. "I'm not too sure either." Long Chen shook his head. Bai Zhantong almost coughed up blood. If he didn't know anything, why was he being so grave? "I feel like they are intentionally letting us kill these devils. I almost fell for that damn fatty Enpuda's sinister scheme again," said Long Chen. Hearing that, Bai Zhantong and the others' expressions changed. It seemed that this matter really wasn't so simple. Everyone raised their guard. "Not good. Our connection to the main academy has been lost." Heaven Master Dong Ming's expressions suddenly changed. "Everyone, come back." Long Chen's voice resounded through the air. Chapter 3460 Heaven-shaking attack by Shishi and the others received the order and didn't hesitate. They all activated their tablets and were instantly brought back into the academy. Before anyone could understand what was happening, a pillar of divine light exploded in the distance. It was like a sun was attacking. The terrifying pressure shattered the surrounding mountains. At that moment, the wind and clouds changed color, while heaven and earth shuddered. It was like the apocalypse had come. Everyone was horrified. This power was smashing directly toward the High Firmament Academy. Just then, the High Firmament Academy's grand formations rumbled and countless ripples appeared. After that, every building within the academy began to shine brightly. As runes blazed with light, an outline of the entire academy appeared on top of the barrier. The truth was that every building in the academy was its own independent grand formation. That was why when Long Chen said to activate all of them, Heaven Master Yun Yang couldn't believe his ears. That price was astonishing. However, Long Chen's sense of danger was truly sharp. Heaven Master Yun Yang had just activated all the formations when the attack came. Everyone stared in horror as a giant blood-colored sun smashed into the academy. That damn fatty, as expected. He was letting us kill the devils to gather their devil chi. Then he would launch an attack to wipe us out. Fuck, good thing it was sensed early. Long Chen felt some cold sweat on his back. This star contained an enormous amount of devil chi. It was a star made from an extreme compression of devil chi. Boom. The star then struck the formation, and the immense power caused the world to shake. Even Long Chen was unable to stand steady in the face of that impact. His blood chi flipped inside of him, and his ears were ringing. He couldn't hear anything. As for the other disciples, they coughed up blood. The majority fainted, while the others were left with their heads buzzing. They temporarily lost most of their senses. Bai Zhantong and the others were also shaken and took a while to recover. They were shocked and infuriated. The power of that one attack was enough to annihilate all of them. Fortunately, while countless cracks and holes appeared in the grand formations, they still managed to hold on. 3 million immortal king crystals. Heaven Master Yunyang was aggrieved. Just to block this attack, 3 million immortal king crystals were turned into nothing. That was the price of increasing the formations to their maximum power at once. However, these 3 million immortal king crystals were all worth it to block this attack. Seeing the riddled formation, Long Chen felt a burst of fear. They had almost been doomed just now. Just then, countless experts appeared from all sides. It wasn't just the deep-sea fiend devils and the life forms from the devil world. The Devil Eye Water Lily race's experts also showed up. This time, even the weakest of the Devil World and Devil Sea's life forms were half-step world kings. These experts had clearly been waiting for this moment. The grand formations were riddled with holes. If they were to launch another powerful attack at this time, it would be all too easy to break the academy entirely. Although the formations were also rapidly repairing themselves, that would take a certain amount of time. The enemy wouldn't give them that chance. Kill! Long Chen roared and was the first to charge out. He was like a bolt of lightning charging at the distant Devil Eye Water Lily race. Although their experts were mostly in the Immortal King realm, in terms of actual power, they were even more terrifying than the World Kings. They definitely couldn't be allowed to approach the barrier. Otherwise, with their power, the formations would crumble. As soon as Long Chen charged out, some spiritual fluctuations locked onto him. Long Chen narrowed his eyes. These fluctuations belonged to that Devil Eye Water Lily whose seed pod he had taken. After that, overwhelming killing intent erupted and giant leaves covered the heavens. A giant lily appeared. As the lily's runes glowed, they transformed into a long-haired man with a 5-colored sword, and he charged at Long Chen. He actually used his true body as his manifestation. Damnable human, you dared to ruin my path to advancing. I will tear your corpse into 10,000 pieces, shouted that man furiously. At that time, he had made his preparations to advance to the World King realm. But Long Chen cut off his seed pod, severing his path to advancing. He had tried to take back his seed pod, but without it he was like a human that had lost his dantian. His power plummeted and he couldn't even unleash a tenth of his power. In the end, he could only watch as Long Chen took it away. He then returned to the undying world and condensed a new seed pod. Now that he was seeing Long Chen again, he was raging with killing intent. The manifestation behind the Devil Eye Water Lily man raged. The lily leaves, flowers, and seeds shone brightly, and divine light flowed out and filled him. After that, the 5-colored sword in his hand blazed with light as well. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, all 5 elements twined together. The power of his attack was comparable to an attack from a world king. You're a life form from the undying world, but instead of cultivating in the undying world, you ran over to my immortal world, occupying the land of my academy. Since you were willing to be used by others, you definitely deserve to die. I can't be bothered to waste words with you. Is the Devil Eye Water Lily race so amazing? Then today, I'll show you that the human race is the king of the immortal world. Divine Ring Battle Armor. Long Chen's divine ring appeared, his stars shining brightly. After that, golden dragon scales covered his body, and a dragon cry rang out, exuding a golden ripple with him in the center. The Devil Eye Water Lily man was actually sent back staggering by that ripple. Die! Long Chen's roar was like spring thunder. His blood-red saber came out of its sheath, absorbing all the murderous aura of the world without leaving a drop. It then slashed mercilessly at the Devil Eye Water Lily man. Boom! As a result, 5-colored light exploded. That man from the Devil Eye Water Lily race was blasted to bits along with his sword. When Long Chen let out a roar, his saber also roared. Overflowing battle intent then came raging out. All of you have committed crimes against my academy. You can all die miserable deaths now. Long Chen's long hair flailed in the air. Like an unstoppable god of war, he charged at the Devil Eye Water Lily race's experts. His 108,000 stars unleashed all their power. com/ov/elb/n/net, Long Chen didn't hold back and started off at full power. Due to it, these Devil Eye Water Lily experts collapsed, not one capable of stopping him. Boom. At this moment, a half-step world king expert of the Devil Eye Water Lily race appeared. His five-colored divine sword was finally capable of stopping Long Chen. However, he had just stopped Long Chen's saber when a lotus mark appeared on Long Chen's left hand. He then slammed it into his enemy's head, and the latter exploded. That half-step world king's power was truly terrifying, but he wasn't able to attack as fast as Long Chen. Long Chen didn't tarry. He killed as many as he could to buy time for the grand formations to repair themselves. Boom. Suddenly, a heaven-shaking explosion erupted. At the same time, he heard Bai Zhantong's furious roar. Jia Luo, this time, only one of us will live to see tomorrow's sun. Chapter 3461 Ghost Dao Possession. Long Chen's heart turned cold. Jia Luo was Lord Brahma's youngest disciple. He had also appeared here? Looking over, Long Chen saw the world rumbling. Bai Zhantong was fighting a slim man with a crown on his head. What shocked Long Chen was that Bai Zhantong was no longer suppressing his cultivation base, and it was finally revealed that he was a half-step world king. Jia Luo was the same. When these two half-step world kings fought, they shook the world. You trash, Bai Zhantong. You said that you would get revenge against me so long ago, but I'm still living so well. But what about your foolish son? Is he still alive? Sneered Jia Luo. He wielded a silver sword against Bai Zhantong, and silver light soared out. The truth was that Bai Zhantong already had a grievance with Jia Luo. Back in the day, Bai Xiaola's mother was injured by this fellow, which harmed the fetus she was carrying. This was what had caused Bai Xiaola to be born with deficiencies, resulting in him having to go through so much pain. Just thinking of that drove Bai Zhantong crazy. He roared furiously, 6 Dao circulate, Ghost Dao Possession. Undying. Indestructible. Black chi exploded out of Bai Zhantong. That was ghost chi. Now, blood-colored light flowed within his eyes. It was as if he had transformed into a wild devil. His blood chi also erupted, and wild chi waves battered the surroundings. As a result, the heavenly Daos crumbled before him. Bai Zhantong's aura instantly doubled in power. Long Chen also saw countless tentacles appear in the manifestation behind him. When they extended into heaven and earth, Long Chen sensed a familiar aura. That aura was something he had sensed from Wu Tian. It was an undying, indestructible aura. However, there was a qualitative difference between the two of their auras. Long Chen instantly understood that Wu Tian's undying, indestructible aura was constant, while Bai Zhantong had only entered a special but temporary state. Die! Bai Zhantong slashed his broadsword out and countless devils exploded. Even half-step world kings were as weak as ants before his current self. Boom! When Bai Zhantong and Jia Luo clashed, ripples exploded and astral winds blasted the world, tearing cracks into heaven and earth. Jia Luo was sent reeling back. It took him over 10 steps to stabilize. In terms of power, he wasn't a match for Bai Zhantong. Suddenly, a trident silently appeared behind Bai Zhantong and stabbed through his body. Everyone cried out in shock. Without even looking back, Bai Zhantong swung his broadsword behind him. His sneak attacker was a devil who was blown apart. Don't attack him. He is in an undying, indestructible state. No one can cause him substantial wounds. Go break the formation, shouted Jia Luo. As old opponents, Bai Zhantong was familiar with Jia Luo's abilities, and Jia Luo was also familiar with Bai Zhantong's abilities. Just as Jia Luo said this, Bai Zhantong unleashed another slash of his broadsword, sending Jia Luo even further back. Once your ghost Dao possession ends, I will cut off your head. Jia Luo sneered and retreated. He knew that the current Bai Zhantong could not be defeated. Fighting with him directly was meaningless. You shameless fellow, fight me fair and square, roared Bai Zhantong. A wise man would rather win with wits instead of power. Only a foolish man relies on brute power. I went through such pain to cross heavens. Do you think it was just to take your life? You view yourself too highly. I came to destroy your 7th branch academy. Taking your dog life is something I'll do in passing, sneered Jia Luo. Fuck you! Bai Zhantong roared and continued attacking Jia Luo. But Jia Luo repeatedly dodged, refusing to fight him head-on. His goal was only to keep Bai Zhantong tied down and wait for his ghost Dao possession to end. At this time, countless devil experts and fiend devils were charging at the High Firmament Academy. Although the Battle God Palace's experts were fighting them at full power and Bai Shishi was slaughtering them with her golden sword, there were too many enemies. Furthermore, they were coming from all directions. There was no stopping them. Bai Zhantong felt like he might just explode from rage. His goal was to quickly kill Jia Luo and then protect the academy, but Jia Luo was too crafty. He refused to fight Bai Zhantong directly and only stalled him. However, he didn't dare to let Jia Luo off either because Jia Luo would attack the others. Hence, Bai Zhantong was caught in a stalemate and could only roar in fury. Comnov/L/B/N. Suddenly, a heaven-shaking roar rang out and a giant figure appeared. This 300-meter giant made Qin Feng and Qi Yu jump. They almost mistook Su Zixiong for wild. Su Zixiong had summoned the Barbarian blood battle body, transforming into a giant. His rod swung out repeatedly. At this moment his power had instantly surpassed even Qin Feng and Qi Yu's. Endless devils poured out. Amongst the junior generation, only Bai Shishi, Bai Xiaola, Qin Feng, Qi Yu, and Su Zixiong had charged into the battlefield. The other disciples had been terrified at the start but quickly summoned their courage to also go out. However, they were shouted at to stop. Against ordinary immortal kings, they would have no problem. But right now, even the weakest enemies were half-step world kings, and there were also world kings amongst them. If these disciples went out, they would only be sending themselves to their graves. Xiaola, chant with me. Heavenly eye descends, shaking the stars, piercing the void, seeing the true form of gods. Bai Xiaola's mother sternly caught Bai Xiaola. The two of them sat on top of the barrier, chanting some scripture. Bai Xiaola originally wanted to go out and fight, but seeing how stern his mother's expression was, he didn't dare to disobey. He formed hand seals and chanted with his mother. As they chanted, their 3 flower pupils appeared. Following that, a pair of giant eyes appeared in their manifestations. It was like the eyes of gods, overlooking the world. A pillar of light then connected the 4 divine eyes and spread, forming a ripple covering the entire academy. Those enemies struck by the ripple were instantly sent flying. It was as if some invisible energy had rejected them, yet also as if they had simply been transported away. They were unable to get through. At this moment, the Academy's elders were going all out embedding new immortal king crystals into the grand formations. They hoped to repair the grand formations as fast as possible. Right now, both sides were in a race for time. Their enemies were trying to break through before the formations repaired themselves, while Long Chen and the others were doing their best to stall for time for the barrier to repair. As for the disciples, they could only watch anxiously. They clenched their hands tightly, but the elders refused to let them go. They could only watch. They felt hatred. They hated themselves for not being strong enough, unable to fight alongside Long Chen. At the most critical time, they were unable to help at all. That felt even worse than dying to them. People looked at where Long Chen was and saw endless devil eye water lilies. They were gigantic and gradually covered him up. Now, everyone's heart clenched. The devil eye water lily race seemed to have come in even greater numbers than the devils. Although the devil eye water lily race's experts didn't have the title of the undying in their names, they were still life forms of the undying world. Hence, they possessed immense life energy and endless divine abilities. But Long Chen was stopping all of them on his own. He was under the most pressure. Luo Changwu stared at him closely, praying inside for him to be fine. Split the heavens. Suddenly, a furious roar rang out and a heavenly saber slashed down like a river of stars. Chapter 3462 Enpuda appears boom. A saber crashed down, shattering the Tao. As a result, countless runes flew through the air, and a bloody path appeared amongst the devil eye water lilies. Long Chen seemed to be possessed by a devil god, and his figure was rapidly charging over. On the other side was another figure being blown back. When people saw that figure, they gasped in shock. It was a world king. Long Chen had actually exchanged blows with a world king of the Devil Eye Water Lily race. The immense shockwaves blew away countless Devil Eye Water Lilies. Some of the closest ones were directly blown apart. This time, Long Chen didn't manage to shatter his opponent's five-colored divine sword. Instead, his arms were numb. This world king of the Devil Eye Water Lily race was too powerful. He had transformed into human form. Not only did he possess terrifying power, but he also had the 5 powers of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. When those 5 elements merged, it was like he possessed 5 spiritual bodies in one. His attacks were sharp and heavy, as if nothing could stop them. Most frightening of all, his attacks also contained a spiritual aspect. If it weren't for Long Chen's vast spiritual strength and firm Dao heart, he would definitely be badly affected. There was truly no need to doubt the power of the Devil Eye Water Lily race. While Long Chen's arm was numb, his opponent also didn't have it easy. Long Chen's split the heavens had caused his manifestation to suddenly dim. It only returned to its original state after several breaths' time. Clearly, even for him, Long Chen's attack required immense power to counter. His expression changed. He suddenly swung his hand, and all the Devil Eye Water Lilies retreated. Long Chen pointed at the World King and coldly said, "You were used by others. If you stop now, it will still be in time. If instead you continue attacking the Academy, then I, Long Chen, swear to make the Devil Eye Water Lily race pay 10,000 times the price." Long Chen could also see that with the final exchange, that World King was a bit afraid. If they continued fighting, perhaps he himself might be fine, but there would be quite a few casualties amongst his fellow Devil Eye Water Lilies. He didn't want to see so many casualties. Instead, he wanted to take a step back, allowing the others to take the vanguard and thus the most losses. Long Chen saw that the other areas were in crisis as well. The Devil Eye Water Lily race had been temporarily cowed, so he had to go reinforce the others. Clearly, the Devil World, the Devil Sea, and the Devil Eye Water Lily race were being used by others for this attack on the Academy. But when it came to the Devil Eye Water Lily race, their enmity only stemmed from a seed pod, so it still hadn't reached the point of no return. Thus, Long Chen made this pledge, hoping that they would retreat now. Long Chen also didn't want to offend so many people. The hundreds of thousands of experts of the Devil Eye Water Lily race slowly fell back, standing in the distance to just watch. But the devils and sea demons of the Devil World and Devil Sea continued to crazily charge at the Academy. Although Bai Xiaola and his mother had created a spatial barrier, which sent anyone who charged through away, such a thing rapidly depleted their spatial energy. They couldn't maintain it for long. Split the heavens. Long Chen unleashed a wave of saber light that blasted through enemies. Inside the Academy, the disciples unleashed excited cheers when they saw how unstoppable Long Chen was. They felt like his glory was theirs as well, as if they were the ones slaughtering these devils. "Long Chen, you go west. I'll take the east." When Long Chen and Bai Shishi passed by each other, Bai Shishi shouted at him. Both sides were under pressure and needed to be reinforced. "All right, be careful. Save some energy. The real enemy has yet to appear," transmitted Long Chen. Bai Shishi's heart shook. There were still more enemies lying in wait? Long Chen charged to the west. The Battle God Palace's experts here were being forced back. There were too many enemies, and they were only a dozen people. They couldn't stop the enemies. Long Chen then unleashed Split the Heavens 3 times. His huge area attacks filled this area with corpses, lightening the pressure on this area instantly. The Battle God Palace's experts worked together with Long Chen to force back their enemies. While Long Chen attacked, he also gathered the corpses on the battlefield and put them in the primal chaos space. He could already guess the goal of his opponents. That terrifying attack just now was the result of condensing all the energy of the fallen devils. But Long Chen didn't know what method they had used. Thus, he was still uneasy. As he slaughtered these enemies, he did his best to suck them into the primal chaos space as fast as possible so that they couldn't be used by their enemies. Unfortunately, the battlefield was too big, and he was unable to cover the entire thing. But every bit that he took in was one bit that the enemy couldn't absorb. com/v/L/bin/bin/net. Another half an incense stick's worth of time passed. The holes in the barrier had vanished, but it was still covered in cracks. It was still too weak to endure another such attack. If they wanted to return it to its previous state, it would take at least an hour. This hour was the crux to victory or defeat. The thing that made Long Chen the most uneasy was that the other side had not even shown themselves yet. He didn't know what scheme they were cooking up in the dark, but he refused to believe that the other side was composed of only Jia Luo. Everything was clearly premeditated. Jia Luo had appeared to stop Bai Zhantong, essentially stopping the Academy's strongest trump card. Bai Zhantong was in his Ghost Dao possession state, and it could be considered as if he was now a merger of two powers within him. However, all of that immense power had been dragged away by Jia Luo. There had to be some goal behind his action. While Long Chen grabbed the corpses on the ground, he also kept an eye on the entire battlefield. Time passed bit by bit. Every breath seemed as long as an hour. The barrier was being repaired too slowly, and the feeling of unease grew. Long Chen felt the other side to be truly sinister. He was always forced to fight passively. It was very unfavorable to him. However, there was also nothing he could do. He had been schemed against once more. The situation was precarious, but he could only wait. That made him furious. He truly disliked being toyed with like he was a fool. Suddenly, the world shook and another pillar of light shot toward the Academy. Long Chen's heart sank. This attack was just as terrifying as the last. It was unstoppable. Long Chen clenched his teeth. He prepared to risk his life to stop it, but he suddenly found that although this attack was flying in the direction of the Academy, it was off target. Boom. As expected, just as Long Chen and the others were confused, that attack shattered the space above the Academy. The void was torn apart, leaving a giant hole. Long Chen and the others were startled. If this attack had landed on the formation, it would definitely break. Although Long Chen had been willing to risk his life to stop it, he really had no confidence in being able to stop it. However, such a terrifying attack had actually gone off target. Furthermore, at this moment, countless figures began to appear in the distance. Long Chen instantly spotted a treacherous fatty. Enpuda! Seeing Enpuda's sinister smile, Long Chen's heart sank. It seemed that they had missed on purpose. Could it be? Long Chen turned back to that hole in the void, his expression changing. Chapter 3463 Enpuda's scheme. Countless figures appeared in all directions. These were all black-robed, masked experts whose cultivation bases couldn't even be sensed. They were like soul-stealers from hell. At this moment, pairs of emotionless eyes eyed people's necks. It felt as if some daggers might cut through their throats at any given time. These people were all assassins. Although they all wore black robes, there were different marks on their sleeves and collars. One was the blood character, and the other was the underworld character. They were respectively from the 9 Underworld Hall and the Blood Kill Hall. With Long Chen's sharp spiritual perception, he could sense that these people were all immortal king assassins. There were hundreds of thousands of them. Assassins possessed immense killing power that could kill across realms. They were all fiends lying in the shadows, specialized at launching fatal attacks while people weren't on guard. On the battlefield, it would be better to fight world kings than have them play hide and seek. Long Chen, you're still too tender. Last time, something unexpected let you run. But this time, no accidents will occur. Everyone here will die. Enpuda smiled at Long Chen sinisterly from far away. Damn fatty, you're getting happy too soon. How do you know that I don't have other trump cards? Speaking of which, I heard that you tried to cause trouble for Mon Yen. Ah, I suppose you don't know that the fellow who helped me last time is called Mon Yen. He sent me some news that he managed to slap you in the face. Is that true? Asked Long Chen. He was trying to conveniently get some information on Mon Yen's whereabouts. If he asked directly, Enpuda naturally wouldn't reply, so Long Chen was hoping to con him. However, what Long Chen hadn't expected was for Enpuda's expression to twist angrily. Killing intent blazed in his eyes. I will make that fellow die a miserable death sooner or later. Unfortunately, you won't get to see it. Long Chen was shocked and stared at Enpuda in disbelief. He really did slap you in the face? Just how smart was Enpuda? Seeing Long Chen's expression, he knew that Long Chen had conned him. Hence, he was infuriated. Just then, a huge spatial portal appeared in the giant hole of the void. Nether chi poured out of it. Enpuda suppressed his fury and smiled. Long Chen, you really are a bit smart. You actually activated your grand formations ahead of time to block my killing blow. Regretfully for you, Enpuda, never do anything that I am not assured of. I know just how difficult you are to deal with. Thus, I made more preparations. Just in case you blocked my first attack, the second attack would pierce the wall between worlds, creating a channel to the netherworld. Although you might have been gathering the corpses, afraid that I would gather their blood-soul energy, you are wrong. I didn't want their blood-soul energy, I only wanted their devil chi. Once they die, their devil chi is still absorbed. So, gathering the corpses is a meaningless effort. If it weren't for the fact that our formation is unable to attack multiple times in a row, I wouldn't even bother to have senior brother Jia Luo come out. Because you are afraid that Bai Zhantong can block your attack? Asked Long Chen coldly. Correct. His ghost Dao possession is truly monstrous. In that state, he has an undying body and truly has the ability to block this attack. Thus, in order to prevent any accidents, senior brother Jia Luo drew him out just to prevent him from stopping this attack. Our goal isn't just to destroy your 7th branch academy. We will also give this vile dragon domain to a tribe of the netherworld, and this place will quickly become filled with nether chi. Having activated its supreme defenses, your foundation stone is no longer stable. It will gradually be corroded by the netherworld's aura. In just a day it will rot. In other words, tomorrow, you and your 7th branch academy will forever vanish from this world, explained Enpuda calmly. Hearing his words, everyone felt ice cold. Enpuda was truly sinister. He was going to make sure that the 7th branch academy never managed to rise again. What a great plan. Before this, you used an ancient corpse to draw over the Devil Eye Water Lily race, using them as a dog watching over this territory. Now, you're using the Netherworld's experts to be your fighters. I really admire you. Lord Brahma truly has amazing abilities. He has all kinds of connections, said Long Chen lightly. Brat, you are courting death. You dare to blaspheme Lord Brahma? Just then, the skinny black-robed elder beside Enpuda shouted. So you must be the master of the 9 Underworld Hall. Old fellow, sooner or later I will definitely turn your head into a kickball, declared Long Chen coldly. This person was precisely the master of the 9 Underworld Hall, Liao Bensong. Just hearing Long Chen and Enpuda's conversation had made him impatient. Hence, as soon as Long Chen mentioned Lord Brahma, he immediately berated him. However, Long Chen's provocation made Liao Bensong frown darkly. His killing intent erupted. Just as the rumors said, the master of the 9 Underworld Hall had an explosive temper. Enpuda quickly stepped forward and said, Long Chen, I'll give you a chance. If you swear to follow Divine Venerate Brahma, we can spare your life. In fact, we can even spare everyone here. Have you gone crazy? Liao Bensong was enraged. His goal was to destroy the 7th Branch Academy and kill everyone here. But Enpuda actually said that he would let off everyone? Furthermore, he hadn't discussed this with Liao Bensong beforehand. This was a kind of provocation toward him. Enpuda ignored Liao Bensong and looked only at Long Chen, waiting for his reply. Long Chen smiled. Enpuda, your scheming really is refined. It was due to your miscalculation that I could reclaim the 7th Branch Academy. Even if you destroy the 7th Branch Academy now, it will still draw Lord Brahma's ire. But if you could pull me to his side, it wouldn't just be a slap in the face to the High Firmament Academy. The Academy's morale would plummet, and you would have a brilliant counterattack. What a nice idea. Just as Long Chen said, if he surrendered, the impact on the High Firmament Academy would be huge. That was because Long Chen was claimed to be the strongest new talent in the High Firmament Academy's history. Also, he was the youngest dean ever. He had countless titles and honors to him. This was why he was viewed as the High Firmament Academy's hope for the future. If he, Long Chen, were to surrender to Lord Brahma, it would be a fatal blow to the High Firmament Academy. It went without saying that Enpuda's scheming was profound. Unfortunately, Enpuda didn't know that the High Firmament Academy absolutely refused to believe that Long Chen would ever join Lord Brahma. That was because he was a 9-star heir. When Long Chen said this, the enraged Liao Bensong calmed down slightly. But right after that, his expression twisted with fury once more. That was because he hadn't thought that far, but Enpuda had not discussed it with him anyway. It was essentially treating him like a fool. "Lu, kill him!" Liao Bensong suddenly roared. Hearing that, Enpuda was incensed. But before he could say anything, a ripple appeared in the space behind Long Chen, and a dagger silently stabbed toward the back of his neck. Favorite. Chapter 3464 Rank 1 Heavenly Fiend, 9 Underworld Luocha. The attack came silently without any warning at all. It was an attack launched right in the gap of a person's senses, and it was as quick as lightning. Long Chen himself was startled. He hadn't expected that someone would be able to approach him without him even sensing it. The attack was almost at his neck when it appeared, and it was the fastest attack he had ever seen. It was far too late for him to dodge. Sparks flew. A saber sheath suddenly appeared behind Long Chen, blocking that dagger right at that moment of life and death. Despite that, an immense force was transmitted through it, sending Long Chen staggering forward. Long Chen didn't even wait to stabilize himself. The Minghong saber already slashed behind him. Metallic ringing once more rang out. Despite there being nothing there before he swung, his saber perfectly blocked the second attack from that dagger. The two divine weapons then rumbled as they clashed. As their masters fought, so did the weapons. The void shuddered, and only now did Long Chen see who had attacked him. It was a slender woman veiled in a woman's head covering. Her hair was short, and her eyes were narrow and icy. If it weren't for the way that they were focused, they would seem just like the eyes of a dead person. Also, her aura was completely concealed. Not a trace of it leaked. All her aura was sealed within her body. Long Chen then narrowed his eyes. He had never seen such a cultivation technique. It had to be known that most people needed to unleash their aura, or if they used too much power, they would injure themselves. They might even cause their own death that way. However, this person was strangely talented. All her power was locked inside her body, and yet her attacks were still hard and concentrated. Not a trace of her power was wasted. "You are the 9 Underworld Luocha?" asked Long Chen. "Remember my name, because the owner of this name will kill you," said the 9 Underworld Luocha. Her voice was just like her, emotionless and dry like a machine. Suddenly, she vanished from beneath Long Chen's saber. She left no sign of where she went or how she moved. Her movement art was completely ephemeral. Long Chen stabbed his saber forward. As a result, the 9 Underworld Luocha that had just vanished reappeared. She hadn't run just now but instead taken a step back. Her dagger blocked Long Chen's saber. A trace of astonishment appeared in her cold eyes. With her special talent, she was a supreme expert within the 9 Underworld Hall. That was why she was bestowed with the name of the 9 Underworld Luocha. The 9 Underworld Luocha was the title given to the 9 Underworld Hall's strongest disciple. Only those who had passed through the cruelest 9 Underworld trial could obtain that title. As the only one in the past million years to pass the 9 Underworld trial, her movement art was obtained from that trial. Also, other than the Hall Master Liao Bensong, no one in the 9 Underworld Hall could see through her movement art. So, she hadn't expected Long Chen to be able to see through it. Normally, when she vanished like that, a person would instinctively spread their senses around. But it was at that moment that she would kill them. She had never failed, except for today. "I don't remember the names of those I killed because I've killed far too many people. I really can't remember them all," said Long Chen coldly. The killing intent in his eyes raged like a tsunami. She was the 9 Underworld Luocha, and her hands were soaked in the blood of 9-star heirs. Long Chen seemed to see the sights of countless 9-star heirs roaring as they were unwillingly killed. Suddenly, Countless stars lit up on Long Chen's saber, and it rumbled, shaking the world. After that, the 9 Underworld Luocha's pupils shrank. She found that Long Chen had somehow locked onto her with a supreme mental energy. At the same time, his saber seemed to be bestowed with the power of the stars. It was trying to directly crush her. He was actually competing with her in pure brute strength, a clash that would not stop until one of them was dead. In this state, she could only fight against him as he wished. The moment she thought of dodging or running away, Long Chen's power would erupt as her power scattered. She would then be instantly destroyed. I have never feared anyone when it comes to power. The 9 Underworld Luocha snorted. A red rune then lit up on her forehead and spread to cover her entire body. Following that, a giant figure appeared behind her. When it manifested, a dark ominous aura filled the sky. That figure was clearly humanoid, but the aura that it unleashed seemed more like that of a devil from the depths of hell. It made people's souls shake. Long Chen, be careful. That is the 9 Underworld Luocha, an infamous devil species from ancient times. It was a species that slaughtered endless life forms. On a battlefield like this, she can absorb all the leftover resentment of the slain to give her boundless power. Shouted by Shirshi's mother when she saw that figure. She had originally thought that the title of the 9 Underworld Luocha was merely to intimidate others. She hadn't expected it to be really related to an ancient devil species. The 9 Underworld Hall had a trial region that had the 9 Underworld Luocha's soul consecrated within. Anyone who passed the trial would obtain the 9 Underworld Luocha's inheritance and their blessing. The 9 Underworld Luocha slaughtered life forms to live and absorbed their resentment to cultivate. And on the battlefield, a huge amount of resentment accumulated from those that were slain. Hence, the 9 Underworld Luocha's manifestation gave her endless power. On this battlefield, she was unrivaled. So what if you know? I abandoned my true name, walking beneath the heavens with the title of the Luocha. The 9 Underworld Luocha is me. I am the 9 Underworld Luocha. When I descend upon the world, the 10,000 races can only quiver beneath my feet and weep, said the 9 Underworld Luocha coldly. Her voice had changed once more, and so had her spiritual fluctuations. An ancient desolate aura now came from her body. It was as if that ancient 9 Underworld Luocha from ancient times had been revived. Long Chen's Minghong saber then rumbled, and his power pressed down on the 9 Underworld Luocha's dagger. Under that immense power, the void fractured like a mirror, the cracks spreading far and wide. Who cares if you're the 9 Underworld Luocha or the 10 Underworld Luocha? In front of me, you can only kneel. Long Chen pressed down. Ignorant fool. An ant like you will never know just how terrifying the Luocha race is. The expressionless 9 Underworld Luocha was suddenly enraged. It seemed that Long Chen's despise of the Luocha race was the greatest insult to her. The Luocha race is nothing. Do you think you're fit to fight me, Long Chen? Long Chen roared, his eyes scarlet. He had almost shouted, my 9-star line. Long Chen's blood qi raged within him like a surging river. As his blood qi surged, his meridians and blood vessels widened, increasing his power to the max, thinking of how this woman had slain 9-star heirs, how those hot-blooded men filled with great dreams had been killed. Long Chen's hatred overflowed. Die! Suddenly, Long Chen and the 9 Underworld Luocha roared at the same time. Both of their powers erupted. At that moment, the world instantly changed color. Favorite. That a sphere of light grew between the two of them, growing until it created a giant zone of death. Lightning raged within. As the 10,000 Daos were suppressed, heaven and earth twisted. Even the stars in the sky shuddered. What kind of power is this? The disciples inside the academy stared in horror, feeling as small as ants. They sensed incredible destructive power within that raging sphere. They had all advanced to the Divine Lord realm. Although they wouldn't dare to say that they were now unrivaled beneath the heavens, at the very least they should be considered experts. However, this battle between Long Chen and the 9 Underworld Luocha taught them what kind of power was required to stand at the peak. The 9 Underworld Luocha's manifestation shuddered and ancient desolate chi came pouring out of her. Right now, runes flowed on top of her body. It was like a true Luocha had been revived, its power swallowing the heavens. As for Long Chen, his divine ring circulated and the starry river quivered. His 108,000 stars were all burning, sending endless power pouring throughout his body. That power then converged within his saber. Die! Both of them shouted at the same time. As a result, 2 pillars of light exploded out of the sphere, charging into the clouds. Astral winds tore at the world like blades, while countless holes appeared within heaven and earth. The world was left riddled with holes, seemingly on the verge of collapse. Countless invisible spatial blades then followed the astral winds. Seeing this scene, the experts fighting quickly retreated. But the sea demon race's giant bodies were unable to dodge, so they were cut to pieces, their blood soaking the ground. You fool, if Long Chen is pulled under the divine venerate, it would be a great meritorious achievement. But you just want to destroy him. Seeing this power of Long Chen's, Enpuda glared at Liao Bensong. You're the fool. Your whole family consists of fools. You were the one who carelessly lost the vile dragon domain, and now I'm taking it back. Killing Long Chen is also my achievement. You damn fatty, if you don't shut your mouth, I'll kill you. Don't think that your little smarts will let you do whatever you want. Liao Bensong furiously pointed at Enpuda and cursed. Enpuda's expression sank, but he didn't continue speaking. Despite his belly full of anger, he knew how to endure. He knew that if Liao Bensong was truly enraged, this idiot would really attack him here. Enpuda was originally planning on using everyone else's life to threaten Long Chen. He had gotten a general grasp of Long Chen's character, so he knew his weakness. However, this idiot Liao Bensong was too stupid. His vision was short-sighted, and he was afraid that after Long Chen submitted, the credit would go to Enpuda. Thus, he wanted to kill Long Chen so that it would be Enpuda who had made the mistake and Liao Bensong who was fixing it. The credit would go to him, and the blame would go to Enpuda. Long Chen and the 9 Underworld Luocha's figures began to appear and vanish. Every clash between them was a full power exchange that shook the heavens. What no one had expected was that the 9 Underworld Luocha was different from ordinary assassins. Her attacks were sharp, but she didn't use too many tricks. She mostly fought openly and directly. com/ov/elb/in/net. It was just that she was so fast it was like she had a transportation formation activating around her. She blinked through the void, leaving countless afterimages. Lightning crackled beneath Long Chen's feet. While using the Lightning Falcon Race's movement art, his speed was also pushed to the limit. When the two of them fought, it looked as if dozens of them were fighting at once. People were unable to see clearly. As they tried to grasp where they were, explosions rang out in new places. The battle was chaotic. As the two of them fought, their speed only increased. Furthermore, people were shocked to find that their auras were also growing stronger. It was as if they would grow limitlessly. Their auras were like the fires of a furnace, which grew stronger as they burned. Golden light began to appear out of Long Chen's body. That was a sign that his blood chi was unleashed to the limit. As for the 9 Underworld Luocha, divine light was shining around her. She had almost merged with her manifestation. The Luocha behind her was originally illusory, but as time passed, the eyes of the Luocha opened at some point, and a violent divine pressure crashed down. It was as if a devil god from ancient times had reappeared. The Luocha has opened its eyes. Long Chen's death is at hand. Seeing that, Liao Bensong smiled confidently. Only he knew just how strong the 9 Underworld Luocha was. Boom. An intense explosion ended the clash between Long Chen and the 9 Underworld Luocha. After their last exchange, both of them fell back. Suddenly, the 9 Underworld Luocha stuck out her tongue and wrapped it around her dagger. Blood then flowed out of her tongue, instantly dyeing the dagger red. When the dagger turned crimson, the aura of her life vanished. But the Luocha behind her seemed to have come to life. Long Chen, you blasphemed my Luocha race. Your death won't be enough to wipe out your sins. Although I have not fully mastered the Luocha possession and can only unleash 1/10 of its power, it's more than enough to kill you. Go repent in the other world. The 9 underworld Luocha's voice rang throughout heaven and earth. It was as if thousands of Luochas were speaking at once. When she raised her dagger this time, the stars twisted. Within a brilliant light, there seemed to be an invisible power condensing on her dagger. Upon seeing that, all the experts fighting couldn't help but stop. Even the enemies slowly retreated. Those devils and sea demons ran. As for the one fighting Jia Luo, Bai Zhanteng, his expression completely changed. He actually abandoned Jia Luo to fly toward Long Chen. He knew just how terrifying this technique was. If you save him, I'll have enough time to kill your 2 women, as well as your son and daughter. Jia Luo smiled sinisterly. Bai Zhanteng's fury soared. He once more charged at Jia Luo, but Jia Luo sneered and dodged, refusing to fight him directly. Seeing Long Chen in danger, Bai Shishi was about to fly over to fight alongside him when Long Chen raised his saber. At this moment, a sharp will soared. In the face of the 9 underworld Luocha's heavy aura, battle intent raged within Long Chen's eyes. I already said, the Luocha race is not qualified to act arrogant in front of me. Rumbling rang out of his body like a flood was breaking through multiple dams. After 18 dams, Long Chen's saber began to quiver, and a giant saber image soared into the heavens, one that caused the heavens to quiver. After that, a destructive aura unfurled. Cracks sounded and lightning thundered. When the saber image pierced into the heavens, the heavenly Daos quivered. This saber was something even gods and ghosts would flee from. Moreover, all the murderous aura was sucked dry, and all the rumbling of manifestations vanished. The world fell deathly silent. Everyone, including Enpuda and Liaobinsong, was shocked. They had never seen such a terrifying saber before. No matter how strong you are, you will still die to my Luocha soul extermination stab, shouted the 9 underworld Luocha. The Luocha behind her unleashed an attack that caused the heavens to collapse. Then let's see just who will die. Split the heavens too. Long Chen shouted, holding his saber. As a man and saber merged, endless power flooded out. It was as if a volcano that had been suppressed for millions and millions of years had finally found a way to explode. Boom. Both of their ultimate techniques erupted, smashing into each other in front of countless appalled gazes. Chapter 3466 Chaotic Scene. It felt as if 2 suns were colliding. Blinding pain stabbed countless people's eyes, and they instantly lost their vision. It felt like the world was being torn apart. Following that, they felt like the space around them was twisting, as if their bodies and souls were twisting as well. Even the experts of the Battle God Palace coughed up blood. As for those half-step World King sea demons and devils, they simply exploded and a bloody stench filled the air. When everyone's vision was restored, it seemed as if the entire world had turned red. It was as if they had fallen into hell. The terrain had completely changed. If it weren't for the barrier still standing, they might not know where they were. The Academy's formations shuddered. Fortunately, they were far enough from Long Chen that the barrier held on. But many cracks that had just healed reopened again. Everyone then looked at Long Chen. His black hair and robes fluttered around him, and his saber was once more pointed at the heavens. Although his face was a bit pale and his aura was not as steady as before, his gaze was electric. He was still overflowing with battle intent. As for the 9 underworld Luocha facing him, blood leaked out of the corner of her mouth. Also, the head covering veiling her face was destroyed, revealing her true appearance. What no one had expected was that her veiled face was covered in countless spots. Some even seemed connected like ferocious reptiles. Just that sight made people feel afraid. However, her arm was covered in fresh blood. Long Chen's saber had almost made her arm explode. I told you, who cares if you're the 9 underworld Luocha or the 10 underworld Luocha? In front of me, you have no right to be arrogant, sneered Long Chen. Just then, another saber image soared into the heavens and came slashing down. Even before it landed, a ferocious heaven-splitting will cause the 10,000 Daos to wail. What? The Nine Underworld Luocha was shocked. She had assumed that Long Chen's flipping blood chi from that exchange had yet to recover. That should be the case according to reason. How was he able to unleash such a terrifying attack again in such a short time? Boom. Long Chen didn't give her time to consider this question. The heaven-soaring saber image came crashing down mercilessly, so the Nine Underworld Luocha spat a mouthful of blood on her dagger. The next moment, the Luocha image behind her that was originally starting to dim grew condensed again. With an explosive sound, the ground beneath her feet crumbled. The Nine Underworld Luocha was smashed into the earth by Long Chen's attack. Before, the two of them had been even, but this time she was unable to stop Long Chen's power. She had no choice but to fall back, borrowing a bit of Long Chen's force to retreat. A bottomless abyss had appeared in the ground from Long Chen's saber. However, the Nine Underworld Luocha had vanished. Long Chen was about to chase after her with the Minghong saber when the void once more rumbled. That huge spatial channel above the academy had finally finished condensing, so the aura of the netherworld came gushing out. Following that, a tide of netherworld experts flew out. At the head of this group were 5 world kings. Seeing this scene, Long Chen's heart plummeted. He was incensed. He had once more fallen for Enpuda's scheme. Compared to this old fellow, he really was lacking some maturity. Enpuda's schemes came one after another in an endless tide. They didn't give Long Chen any breathing room. This time, there really was nothing he could do. Long Chen, I'll now give you your last chance. Join Divine Venerate Brahma, and I can spare all your lives. All I will do is destroy the 7th Branch Academy. Otherwise, you will only be able to watch as all your academy's people are killed here," announced Enpuda. He could see further than Liao Bensong, and he saw that Long Chen's talent was amazing. At such a young age, Long Chen already had such power, a power that was greater than the 9 Underworld Luocha. His potential was limitless. If Enpuda could have Long Chen join Lord Brahma, then his mistake this time would be completely forgiven. In fact, Lord Brahma would probably be delighted. 9 Underworld Luocha, where are you? Hurry up and kill Long Chen. I order you to use your trump card. Liao Bensong ignored Enpuda and shouted, Long Chen. What no one had expected was that the newly descended army from the netherworld didn't immediately attack the academy. Instead, they heard Long Chen's name and were surprised. Long Chen, Master Long Chen, is that you? One of the world kings looked at Long Chen in disbelief. You're? Damn, it really is you. When Long Chen looked closely, he finally recognized this world king. The latter had helped Long Chen row the boat across the Black Sea when they had gone to Wu Tian's city. However, he wasn't one of Wu Tian's important generals, so Long Chen hadn't paid him much attention. Fortunately, his memory was decent, or things would be awkward now. Haha, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to encounter you here again. That world king was delighted and shouted. Hearing that this world king actually recognized Long Chen and even called him master with such a reverent tone, Enpuda and Liao Bensong were dumbfounded. Let alone them, even everyone in the academy was dumbfounded. Long Chen knew world kings from the netherworld? That was unimaginable. Boom. Just then, the earth erupted and the 9 Underworld Luocha came flying out. After that brief delay, her aura seemed to have recovered, and her attack was once more incredibly sharp. Hence, Long Chen's saber slashed down again, and the 9 Underworld Luocha was sent staggering several steps back. Master Long Chen, what is going on? Do you need us to do anything? After his excitement, that world king realized that Long Chen was in battle. Then I won't stand on courtesy. Help me lock down this area. Kill all the fellows other than the human race. Other than that, there's a damn fatty and a damn skinny there, as well as that dog thing and this spotted woman. They are all enemies. Don't let them flee. Afraid that this world king wouldn't be able to differentiate between friend and foe, Long Chen specially pointed out Enpuda, Liao Bensong, Jia Luo, and the 9 Underworld Luocha. Alright, Master, don't worry, we'll definitely handle this perfectly. That person didn't hesitate. He directly gave orders, And this army of the Netherworld took out their weapons and collapsed on the sea demons, devils, and even the devil-eye water lily race. Enpuda roared with a mixture of shock and rage, "Bastards, what are you doing? Aren't you the Black Nether race? Your divine venerates subordinates dash." Boom. His reply was a hammer that struck him like a shooting star. "What subordinates? Neil. Divine venerate Brahma? All we care about is Master Wu Tian. The Black Nether race betrayed Master Wu Tian and was just destroyed by us. You are their friends? Then you are our enemies." The 5 world kings pounced on Enpuda and Liaobansong. The scene instantly became chaotic. Liaobansong was dumbfounded, so he furiously cursed Enpuda. "You damn fatty, tell me what's going on?" Favorite that you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.